Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay. My name is Joe Fricke, and welcome to the Season 2 premiere of Movie Changeup, where every week two people go head to head pitching reboots to seven movies we love, love to hate, and maybe even forgot about. For this week's episode, we have decided to reboot seven movies with two, that's T-O, two, T-O-O, or two, T-W-O in the title in honor of our Season 2 premiere. However, these aren't just straight up reboots since we've added a little twist, because every week there are also seven rules we must follow. One rule per movie, and you can't use a rule more than once. Now, to help me determine the winner in today's head to head matchup, I have a co judge. Now, if you watched or listened to last season, you may have heard us refer to the other judge as a consultant judge. Well, the role of consultant judge is dead. Last season, the competitors got to pick their own seven movies and rules, and the main host picked all of the winners. Not anymore. Both judges have equal control now. I picked three movies, Bobby picked three movies, and together we came and picked the seventh movie. For the rounds of the movies Bobby picked, he chose the winners. If the competitors choose a movie I picked, then I choose the winner. So, Bobby, how have you been during our break, and how do you feel about these changes?
I've been good. It's been a nice little break, but I'm ready to hop back into season two. And shout out to John Williams. It's his birthday today, 89th. So I got some Jurassic Park going in Star Wars. So just excited to do this.
All right, all right. Now we have two competitors today who have faced off towards the end of season one, but this is their first time facing off in the main division. The first competitor is our reigning champ with a combined record last year of 9-1. He is also my fellow co-creator of this podcast. His name is Johnny Doop. Johnny, do you feel like the Apollo Creed of this league, and when do you think your Rocky Balboa will show up and knock you down?
Joe, I kind of feel like both Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed. Because I will always live on, and I will never lose again. And I'm not too worried about Business Suit over there. I think Tristan and I only faced once in our Forgotten Movies. This is the first time we'll ever face off with real movies, if you can call, these movies real movies. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens, but I'm excited for the matchup, but I'm feeling confident. Bobby got his Jaws and his Star Wars. I have my Jaws shirt. Or what? No, I think I said Bobby Jaws, but he has Jurassic Park. So there we go. We're all celebrating John Williams appropriately.
All right. I mean, not me, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you do what you do. So our
Do
second
do.
competitor started off cold but got hot towards the end last season. Tristan, why do you think you can do what no one else has been able to and defeat Johnny?
Look, I mean, we saw yesterday a really nice big shutout at the Super Bowl, and I feel like we're gonna have it again this week. I'm gonna come in here and dominate Johnny. I'm gonna be the not racist version of Tom Brady, and I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna win this game. And I'm ready to pitch. Johnny mentioned some movies this week that might not totally be real movies, but one of them is one of my favorite movies, and I'm really excited to talk about it. And we have some great ones, some not great ones this week, but what I'm most confident in is not the movies themselves, but my pitches and the fact that I'm going to win. So I'm here to take Johnny down. Like you said, he's on a win streak, whatever. I'm just here to knock him down and take that spot from him this season.
All right. And in season one, we only had content available on YouTube and podcast app. Now you can stream us live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We are still on all the same podcast app, and as far as social media goes, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Movie Changeup, which you can see below down there. If you're thinking, Joe, I don't have Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok, well, get off your ass and make an account. Go follow us, like us, subscribe, do all of the things. It really helps us and puts us in front of more people every day. We're putting out content that isn't just clips of the show, and we try to make it worth your while. Bobby had a pretty nice video that we put up yesterday that's what if Harry Potter was a rock opera? So go over to our TikTok and check that out. Now, let's get to it. As far as today's seven movies are, we have 2003's Too Fast, Too Furious, 1988's Coming to America, 1997's Jungle to Jungle, 1990's Hard to Kill, 2010's How to Train Your Dragon, 1956's The Man Who Knew Too Much, and the incredible classic 1990's Troll 2. And Bobby, do you have the seven rules there?
Yes, I do. Let's see. We have one must include the Joker, one must be cast as a 1970s movie, One must include the Sprouse twins. One must include only Star Wars actors. One must be a Martin Scorsese movie. You must resurrect a director's career for one. And one must be a musical. And as Tristan says, that is his favorite.
All right. And I believe, Tristan, you won the competition before the episode began to determine what movie we're going with and who goes first. So what movie are you picking and who's going first?
I'm going to go with Hard to Kill, and I'm going to throw it off a bit and have Johnny go first.
Okay, interesting choice. And if you guys are wondering, hey, I wonder what Joe would have done with these pitches. After this match, you can head over to our Twitter, which is @Movie Changeup, and I'm going to have posted written article of what movies and what rules I would have paired and what my pitches would have been. So, you know, if you're bored on a Monday evening after this episode's over, go over there and check that out. I'm interested to see what you think. If you like my ideas, tell me. If you don't, keep that opinion to yourself. So, Hard to Kill came out in 1990, got a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's directed by Bruce Malmuth. It is an American action thriller film starring Steven Seagal, Kelly LeBrock, William Sadler, and Frederick Coffin. It features Seagal as Mason Storm, a detective who falls into a coma after being shot during a firefight that killed his wife. Reawakening 7 years later, Storm embarks on a journey to avenge the death of his wife and expose the corruption of Senator Vernon Trent. And this was actually my pick, so I will be judging this round.
All right. Well, Joe, I hope you like what I did with it. Now this one at first, looking forward, I didn't think this rule matched up too well, but going through it and thinking about this director's career, I thought Hard to Kill could make a very interesting Martin Scorsese movie. So my director is Martin Scorsese. I'll kind of do my pitch and then go over kind of who my cast is. You know what? No, so you guys can kind of picture him as I go along. Here's my cast. My lead is going to be named Mason Pierce. That's going to be played by Andrew Garfield. My Andy Stewart is going to be played by Kate Mara. My Senator Vernon Trent is going to be played by Mark Rylance. Felicia, who is Mason's wife, is going to be played by Olivia Wilde. And my FBI captain is going to be played by Ray Liotta. So, that being said, here's my pitch. Mason Pierce is an FBI agent who went undercover to stop a large drug smuggling plot. The film begins with the FBI stopping the transaction and arresting all the perps involved. Mason is awarded the Medal of Honor by Senator Vernon Trent in a big ceremony. That night, he is eating dinner with his wife Felicia when men break into his house. They kill his wife and they shoot him. Mason wakes up in a hospital. He has been in a medically induced coma for 2 months and is lucky to be alive. The captain of the FBI tells Mason they believe the attack could have been tied to his undercover operation, but they have not found any connections yet. Mason wants to investigate, but he is ordered to take time off and not to meddle in the case because he is now compromised. Mason ends up sneaking out of the hospital and going to visit an old friend, Andy Stewart, who used to be his partner when they were police officers, and he needs someone to help him find the people who killed his wife. She reluctantly agrees, and they start their own investigation. This is more of a detective film than an action movie like the original, so you're still going to have some like gunfights and stuff, but it's more focused on him trying to find out who betrayed him or, discovered him. And they discover the assassination was all in the orders of Senator Vernon Trent, who is corrupt and lost a lot of money on the drug bust. Mason plans an attack on the senator's well-guarded mansion. He sneaks in and takes out the guards before finally confronting Vernon. Vernon says, "You can't arrest me. You're no longer working for the FBI." And Mason replies, I've never planned on arresting you. And then he shoots the senator in the chest. The film ends with Mason being visited by his former captain at Mason's remote cottage. Mason thinks he's about to be arrested, but his captain tells him all the files for him have been destroyed and no one will be coming for him. So that's my movie. I have some more in there, like info, just kind of where the plot goes. At some point, the whole movie basically is going to suspect it to be Ray Liotta's character, the FBI captain, betraying him, and then he finds out that it's the senator. So it's kind of a detective movie with a couple little twists, more of a Departed-like tone. I want Scorsese to return to something like that after kind of, doing like The Silence, which was kind of a long, boring movie, and same with his last one, The Irishman.
The Irishman.
Good, but I want him to kind of go back to doing something like The Departed, and that was a remake, so I felt like that tone and everything fits well for this. So that's what I'm kind of shooting for. So that's my pitch.
All right, Tristan, what do you got?
All right, I went a different direction with mine. We mentioned before the show on our little preamble that this is basically a Die Hard ripoff. So in order to combat that, I made it come out first. I made it come out in 1975 because my rule was to cast it as a 1970s movie. And for my director, I used William Friedkin. He's most known now for The Exorcist, but in the 70s, he was known for The French Connection. And he was also the future director of Live and Die in L.A., which are kind of like really fun action thriller movies. And my cast here is Clint Eastwood, who plays Mason Storm. He's a gruff cop who works undercover in narcotics. And when he busts a drug ring backed by corrupt cops, he becomes the target of assassins who attack him and his wife, killing her and putting him in a coma. And when he wakes up, he must go on the run in New York City, fighting for his life and vowing revenge on anyone who was responsible for his wife's death. And similar to the original, he tracks it down to Senator Trent, like Johnny mentioned in his, but my version is played by Michael Caine, who was on a big hot streak in the 70s, especially 75. He was in like 4 movies that year, so he was an ultimate all-star. And I think him and Clint Eastwood being in this cat and mouse game in the 70s movie would be really exciting. And I think William Friedkin is shown in French Connection that he can do that kind of cat and mouse spy thriller. And we follow a similar plot to the original. I made it a little bit more of an action movie than Johnny did, but I still wanted to bring in some of the spy elements. So we have Mason Storm going through New York City. He basically has a one-night chance to find Senator Trent as he's slowly gaining power over New York City, and he needs to track down Trent and get his revenge. And in our final scene, we have this big shootout where Clint Eastwood is essentially on his own. All these cops have kind of abandoned him because they see these corrupt cops, but they're telling him, oh, just, you can't fight them. They're too powerful. They control too much power in the city. But he takes it on himself. He invades Senator Trent's huge mansion, gets in a huge badass shootout at the end, hunts down Trent, and in the last scene, he's confronting Trent, about to kill him, and Trent says, why are you going to kill me? Your wife's still alive. I know where she is. I can find her for you. But he says he just doesn't respond. He shoots him anyway and kills him and walks away. So you leave it kind of ambiguous at the end, like he's going to try and go find his wife, but you're not quite sure if she's even alive, if there's even a chance now that Trent's dead. He simply says, I don't care, and shoots him. And that's kind of the plot of my movie. It's just a simple cat and mouse game. Clint Eastwood is on the run trying to hunt down Senator Trent while he's sending goons and assassins after him. And we see Clint Eastwood getting badass shootouts, fighting these guys one by one, slowly tracking it down, finding out that Senator Trent, who we see throughout the movie, is the ultimate bad guy. And he decides, okay, I'm taking this guy down myself, whether if I go down with him or not, he's going down with me. And you just get a simple cat and mouse action movie just like the original, but this time it's in the 70s. This time it has Clint Eastwood. This time it has Michael Caine. And you have an awesome director, William Friedkin, at the helm of it. What else can you ask for?
All right, interesting. Bobby, do you really have any questions or thoughts or anything for them?
For Johnny, more of just in his argument, I just kind of want to hear what kind of Scorsese-isms are going to be in the movie. You don't have to answer directly now, but like the voiceover or like lead characters going bad, what stamp would he put on it? And Tristan, more of a question for now, I guess, is how is this, because it's in the 70s, going to differentiate itself from the Dirty Harry movies?
I think it goes hand in hand with Dirty Harry. I think it's a few years after the Dirty Harry movies really put Clint Eastwood on the map, and now he's following it up with this gritty kind of urban cop movie. He's off the grid. He's living on his own. He's trying to get revenge, and it kind of goes hand in hand with Dirty Harry. It's a follow-up potentially to his Dirty Harry movies. You give another director, Clint Eastwood, and you give him even more badass action scenes. It's exactly what you want out of a 70s Eastwood movie.
Okay.
Yeah, mine, Andrew Garfield will have like a voiceover in it, kind of just explaining, like, because I think if Scorsese did a detective movie, his way of really like kind of telling that to the audience of what's going on, what the character's thinking is a voiceover. It's not going to over rely on it. I think Scorsese does a good job of that, but it's kind of introduce some things that way. And then the other thing about it is I feel like Scorsese too, in The Departed, you kind of know what's going on in the whole movie. So I like a movie with maybe a little more mystery. So I want most of the film for Ray Liotta, who classic Scorsese, Ray Liotta would be the villain, the big, the evil character. He's going to be like the number one suspect. And then Andrew Garfield's character finds out that it's not him and goes towards and he discovers it's the senator. So Those are kind of like the Scorsese, like you have little twists in there, like not anything too crazy like Shutter Island twist, but he likes having little twists and turns, and it's like a detective story. So I think it fits his tone pretty well.
Okay, that answers mine.
And who plays the senator in your movie?
Mark Rylance,
Mark
who
Rylance, right?
I think could play a good like
Yep.
villain that just seems like a normal senator. You haven't really seen him do a role like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be something that would be miscast as like Ben Mendelsohn, who's always the
Yep.
villain.
Yeah, who you know immediately is the bad guy. And I kind of went for the casting wise like the opposite. Like, of course, you think Ray Liotta is going to be the evil, bad guy, but it's Rylance.
All right, yeah, like I think I'm pretty 50-50 right now, so I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to fight it out. I might stop it before that 5 minutes, but I have 16:34 on the clock, so at 21:34 I'm going to call it no matter what, so fight it out,
right.
tear each other apart.
I'll start. And I'll say that this sounds my movie. I mean, Clint Eastwood in this era is like in his prime of action movies, and you mentioned Dirty Harry, but I think that's honestly a pro to this pitch. I think it's a couple of years after Dirty Harry, and he's on a hot streak right now. People will be out to see any Eastwood action movie that comes out, especially he's playing a cop. He's playing a like kind of a gritty, not dirty cop, but he's taking the law into his own hands kind of cop. And I'm sure people would love this. So just what 4 years after Dirty Harry. I think it's a great role for Clint Eastwood. And Michael Caine, he was also on a hot streak. I think these are two all-stars of the 70s, and it would be really fun to see them kind of going head-to-head. To see Michael Caine play a bad guy would be really fun, especially like in hindsight now we see him a lot in the Nolan movies. He's kind of just like the good guy, the butler who comes in and gives advice in Tenet for one scene and then leaves. And I think it would be fun to have him be the bad guy who's fighting against Clint Eastwood. I just really like these two actors, especially in the 70s, and you put them in a very simple premise like this, and I think you can get the best out of both of them.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it just maybe people would have been excited at the time, to see a Clint Eastwood movie. He had some popular ones there, but I do think the Dirty Harry series. There's 5 movies, and they're all going on during yours. I think him playing he's not like as a dirty of a cop, but he's kind of he's kind of like a rogue cop doing his own thing, going after the evil bad guy. It sounds very similar. I think Clint Eastwood's best work in the 70s were when he either stuck to what he's good at, which is his westerns like High Plains Drifter and The Outlaw Josie Wales are probably his 2 best movies in the 70s. And, I liked those, and all of his other ones I've seen, like even Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, which is a movie that I checked out because I was on a Clint Eastwood binge. I watched that and I'm like, this movie's nothing special, and the best part of that movie is Jeff Bridges. And I think while I would like to see maybe Michael Caine play a character like yours, I do think it might come off as him in like Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Like I wouldn't really take Michael Caine seriously in your role, because going back and watching his work, he's good in like comedies and in dramatic roles when he's like the good guy. I don't know if that was really in his skill set, and I don't know if I would have been afraid of him, especially after seeing like such a great villain performance in Dirty Harry with a serial killer. I'm not going into this movie and ever like thinking Michael Caine can go up against Clint Eastwood, who I already know is like this basically superhero type character, whether it's his westerns or his cop movies.
And I'll counter that by saying that we're leaning into that here. I mean, we're seeing Michael Caine as a senator. He's not out there fighting Clint Eastwood fist to fist. He's kind of the behind the scenes guy. He's kind of giving orders to the goons. And you see him in sort of the first act as a presence in the movie. He's not revealed to be the villain until at the end of the first act, halfway through. And I think that leans into our prejudices of Michael Caine. You see him and you think he's going to be the good guy. You think he's going to be just kind of there to support Clint Eastwood's journey. And then it turns out he's the bad guy behind it the whole time. And I think that leans into what we know of the actor, and I think it could really make it exciting when we're finally able to see him play a bad guy in a dramatic role. Like you said, he was good in dramatic roles where he's a good guy. So I think you can turn that into a twist and make him the bad guy and really lean into his skill as an actor.
Yeah, and just because Joe's going to end it at some point.
You got about a little over a minute.
My movie at all. I think with mine, I want to see Scorsese kind of return to a Departed style, like cop movie with some action sequences, get him like something exciting. I think Scorsese's like his true best work is when he kind of goes away from what he normally does, or he takes years off of that and comes back to it. Like Wolf of Wall Street was a different story, but it was very similar to a Goodfellas Casino, and he hadn't done anything like that in a while. It's now been 15 years since The Departed, and I want to see him kind of do a film like that, because I think he could come back really strong, especially after like two like fine like overlong movies. But I picture mine more as like, I really like the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, but that's just like a goofy cable movie. I want to take that, kind of combine it with the tone of The Departed, and take aspects from like The Fugitive, where this like rogue FBI agent's getting chased by the FBI, and he's trying to stop this guy who killed his family. So it's like a revenge detective film that also deals with just some good themes and stuff that Scorsese does well, and has some good action. And I want to see Andrew Garfield in a role like this. I think he could be really good.
I think
he's always great in everything he's in.
I think I have my ruling. Does anyone have one final bomb they want to drop or anything like that? Or, because otherwise, I think I know where I'm gonna go.
Can't wait for Drill 2.
All right, Bobby, what are your thoughts?
So I think Tristan did a good job of kind of, if this movie was made in the 70s, this is kind of how it would go, and it would be an entertaining movie. But I do think Johnny's point of it would get lost in the Dirty Harry movies kind of puts that down a little bit. So I'm leaning towards Johnny with the Scorsese take, because I'd like him to return to The Departed, but I'm pretty close between the two pitches.
Yeah, I'm pretty close as well. I'm gonna go to some of our live chats. Unlike season 1, that's the one downgrade between season 1 and season 2, is we can't really put comments on the screen like we used to. But Dune Slug in the chat has said, brought up how Tristan's poster is falling. He says Johnny's story was better, or was good, but Tristan's storytelling was better. He also says he's still leaning Tristan at the end. My thing is, I agree with what Bobby said. I think if Tristan's movie came out in the 70s, I think it would crush and it would be good, but I just don't know how well it would hold up. To me, a lot of those cop movies that came out around then, like The Dirty Harry, like The French Connection, like I've watched them in the last few years, and to me they just don't, the cop 70s movies are just not what holds up that well. And I also don't know if I want to see basically an unofficial Dirty Harry sequel where he goes up against Michael Caine, who is more of like the suave type guy. I just don't know if that would be as believable as well. And I think a Departed style Scorsese movie would be more interesting to me. I like Andrew Garfield as kind of like a little bit change of the role. Like he played a superhero, but it was not, he wasn't fighting, he was always CGI. So you don't see Andrew Garfield really as like a tough guy. And I think it'd be just an interesting movie I'd like to see. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Johnny here with the Scorsese version of Hard to Kill.
Bad call.
So Johnny,
I like your director choice for your 70s movie though, Tristan. We'll see what I did with mine.
Yeah. Nice.
So I didn't really knock that one.
Yeah, I couldn't text Scorsese either, because I was like, well, I'm going to bring up Scorsese later in the episode, so I can't really say a lot now.
I mean, what are you going to say though? Oh, Scorsese sucks. Like,
yeah, Scorsese's bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tristan, where are we heading next, and who's going first?
I'm going to save that one for a little later. Let's go with Jungle to Jungle.
All right, interesting. This is who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay. Jungle to Jungle. It came out in 1997. It got a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, from what I remember of that movie and the trailer I just watched, it seems about 18% too high. Its director was John Pasquin. It is a comedy film produced by the Walt Disney Company. It starred Tim Allen, Martin Short, David Ogden Stiers, Jo Beth Williams, and Sam Huntington as Mimi Siku. According to IMDb, it's about a man who learns he has a 13-year-old son who is raised in the jungle, and he brings the boy to New York City, turning his life upside down in the process. What do you got?
All right, I went for my rule.
This was my movie as well, so I'm still judging this one.
For my rule on Jungle to Jungle, I use one must include the Sprouse twins. And my director is Max Barbakow, who directed Palm Springs. This would be his second feature film. So after a tight-knit, suited young adult, Michael, played by Cole Sprouse, discovers he was separated from his twin brother, River, who's played by Dylan Sprouse, at a young age after their parents' divorce. He goes on an international trip to reunite with his brother, who's now living in a hippie commune. After a late night on hallucinogenics and partying, the two end up accidentally swapped. So Michael is now a fish out of water in a hippie commune, and River finds himself in the metropolitan jungle of New York City. And these two twins separated at birth now find themselves swapped in two totally different situations. They're both having their own fish out of water adventures, and just a typical sort of arc where they're leaving their home area. They're very out of their element. They're very uncomfortable, and they're starting to come into their element after throughout the story. They're starting to realize the joys of these different lifestyles, and in the end, they both come to appreciate what they had before and decide to keep in contact, but ultimately go back to the lives they had before with newfound appreciation for themselves and their past and who they are and where they're at in their lives. Just a nice coming of age story. I think Max Barbacow could pull it off really well. He showed in Palm Springs that he could take a fairly simple premise of, oh, the day repeats. We've seen that plenty of times, but he can take that and really make a lot out of it, and emotionally make a lot out of it, make a lot out of it for the characters, and take that relatively easy premise of, oh, twins are switched, and find something great out of it and find something funny out of it that can appeal to a lot of people, to adults, to kids, to families, and really just make the most out of this swapping of the Cole and Dylan Sprouse storyline. I think Cole Sprouse is kind of a little bit of a career resurgence. He's on Riverdale and a few other TV shows. I think it's time for him to have a nice lead in a comedy movie and bring Dylan Sprouse back out from basically retiring to play his twin sibling once again, and make Jungle to Jungle, instead of a weird kid from a tribe comes back to New York City, it's going to be these two people swap places, and we get some awesome fish out of water comedy, coming of age comedy. That's my pitch.
All right. Movie Changeup. Big Max Barbacow fans. I think since Palm Springs dropped, whoever is someone competing has always had him as the director of one of their movies. So, Johnny, what do you got?
Well, I went with a director we've never used on this show before, and that is Gina Prince Bythewood. She did back in the day. She did a movie called The Secret Life of Bees, which was a really underrated movie. And then she did Beyond the Lights, which I saw when I was dating someone at the time and expected nothing and thought it was a good, like, kind of dramatic, like, romance story with some good musical sequences. And the reason for that is my movie will be a musical. For Jungle to Jungle, I'll kind of go into my pitch and then and tell you the cast as I go along. So Michael, played by Stephen Yeun, who was great in Burning, and he's probably most famous for Walking Dead, but he has a great movie that looks great coming out called Minari, which I'm excited to see. And Angela, played by Tessa Thompson, who's obviously super famous, but great in Creed and Dear White People and Thor Ragnarok. So they play a married couple who are not able to have children and decide to use an adoption program that rescues children from being child soldiers in Africa. The New York couple adopts a young boy named Jabari, played by Evan Alex, who is the kid in Us, and he was also he's good in the show Kidding, the Jim Carrey Showtime show. Jabari, who's a 12-year-old and was forced into war since he was 8 in Congo. Jabari starts going to school in New York, where his adopted mother is the choir teacher. Jabari has trouble adapting to his new life and his new surroundings. He is having a hard time at school and does not feel like he fits in. One night, he has a tantrum and tells his parents he is not meant to have a normal life and that no one likes him. He goes to his room crying, and Angela follows. She starts to sing to him, and Jabari calms down. He starts to sing with her. Angela decides to have Jabari join her choir class. Jabari does not feel comfortable singing in front of anyone but his mom, but he finally feels joy when he is singing. So one day when he's privately singing to her in her office, a girl in the choir named Katie, played by Chloe Coleman, who's a superstar. She was in My Spy and Big Little Lies. So she overhears him singing in the back office, and he sees her and gets very shy. He stops singing. Katie tells him she doesn't want him to stop, that she wants to sing with him. They bond over their love of music, and Jabari and Katie form a great friendship. So overall, this is a musical coming-of-age story about a boy finding a new life and a new home, and it's about the struggles of not only Jabari adapting to his new life, but also the parents adapting to being parents, dealing with the troubles that does. But mine is a musical more in the way of like A Star Is Born, where it's not just they just break out into song. It will be like actual moments in the movie where they are, singing. There's going to be choir performances and him working up his courage to kind of do the big performance at the end, with the help of Katie. So that's my movie. I think it's the only way I could have made Jungle to Jungle a watchable story. Tristan sounds like just complete garbage, so we'll get into that. But that's really my whole pitch.
All right, Bobby, do you have any questions for him?
Not really. It's more just kind of I want to hear him fight it out. I have no connection to this movie. I've never seen it. I watched the trailer and I read it, but Johnny sounds sweet and Tristan sounds like a fun like Parent Trap kind of movie. So I mean, hey, they both sound interesting. I just want to hear him talk about it.
Yeah, the one thing I had for Tristan is your movie kind of stars both of them, or does your movie focus more on Cole Sprouse or Dylan Sprouse or?
Oh yeah, Cole's definitely the lead, but they're both co-leads essentially. I just have Cole is the main character and Dylan sort of secondary character, but they're both the main characters. Cole is just kind of your audience surrogate that brings you into the story, so he's the focus, but Dylan's very prominently in it too.
All right, yeah. It's 32 minutes in right now. I'll give you guys another 5 minutes to fight it out. So tear each other apart.
I'll start on this because Tristan did last time. The main thing I have with Tristan's is, besides like the outrageous plot, like I like Max Barbacow, and if you just read the plot of Palm Springs, I'd probably say like, yeah, that's not going to work. But then you have his cast in that movie, and it's fantastic, and it kind of makes the outlandish story work. What your movie is missing is literally anyone charismatic. Like, your lead of your movie is someone most famous now for being in a CW show, and the other one, Dylan Sprouse, is barely in anything at all. He's like the lesser brother. So I don't need to see a movie with both of them. It would have been harder to fight against your like kind of outrageous plot if you had just said, my movie stars Andy Samberg as both characters, or someone who is comedic and funny who is watchable that could play just both. Like in The Parent Trap, it wasn't two different people. It was just Lindsay Lohan being both. You could have done something easy like that. Maybe the Sprouses were like background characters, but even just having a good director, if you throw in people who I'm not interested in seeing their movie, like I'm not going to go see yours, it sounds too ridiculous. I would have to be sold on the actors for, to be interested in yours, and it just, nothing in your movie sounds like anything that would really draw people out other than attaching the name Palm Springs. But I think that would help if you had some better actors in there.
Well, I think the Palm Springs name is the big attachment. I'm not an Andy Samberg fan. I don't typically watch his movies, but I watched Palm Springs and thought it was great. And I think anything Max Barbacow does next, he could take a ridiculous premise and make it something great. You mentioned it in your own argument that if you read out the plot to Palm Springs, it would sound bad, but you give Max Barbacow that script and he makes it something great. He brings out a great performance from actors, Andy Samberg, who typically is funny and stuff, but he's not, like, in my mind, a big draw for me personally to go see movies. But I went and saw Palm Springs because of the acclaim for it, and now I'm ready to see Max Barbacow's next work. And I think Cole Sprouse and Dylan Sprouse, sure, Cole's known for Riverdale now, but I think our generation knows him pretty well from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I think they showed in that show comedic timing and charisma between each other, and that's a skill to develop. And I think now that especially Cole is more experienced as an actor, I think he could lead this a lot. And Dylan's a supporting role, like I said, he's not the main focus, but he's there throughout the movie. And you lean on Cole, who's more experienced. You have the nostalgia of these two brothers together on screen again. I would definitely be into that. I watched Sweet Life, Zack and Cody all the time when I was a kid. And regardless of the quality of the show now, it was a well-received kids show at the time, and I think it would be really fun to see them both back on screen together again, and Max Barbacow could make the most of that.
I mean, you could literally have just everything that you just said. You could have been like, yeah, I cast Drake and Josh in my movie, and they had good chemistry together when they were kids in a show that doesn't hold up. Like, it's a kids show on the Disney Channel that doesn't show they have comedic timing that they can still carry out in their career. It absolutely
does.
It does not, because I'm not interested. I wouldn't go see your movie if it was other kid actors that haven't really done anything interesting since, like, I think it's different. Like, none of them have really done anything like the work that Zendaya or someone like that has done since leaving. I'd be fine with them as side characters. Like, I think they're capable of doing like small roles, but I don't know who's really rushing out to see this one. Like it just, the story's outlandish and ridiculous, almost as much as the original movie. And it's just like, I don't know. I'd rather see something. Mine would be closer to, I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Loose or the stage play. It's about a kid who was adopted by white parents who was a child soldier, and now he's older, and you kind of don't have that growing point. It's kind of just they suspect him of maybe still having violent urges. I want to see a film, maybe similar tones, but about the actual growth of someone that went through something so traumatic as a kid and is coming to a new life. I think that would be a movie that got people, to see it. I think it could have important messages in there. It would bring light on something that actually is a real thing, like child soldiers and stuff. How many movies have you seen like mine? Like I could just watch any old comedy. I could go watch Blended and it's going to be just as good as your movie. But, mine is just like, bad actors in a bad scenario. Like, oh, fish out of the water type things. I don't really care about that. I want to see like growth of characters and stuff. And I don't think I'm getting that out of your movie the way mine does.
Mine's all about the growth of the characters. It's about Cole Sprouse feeling tired of his suited up adult life in New York City, thinking, oh, I'm going to go out to this hippie commune and I'm going to find a new life. And you have, meanwhile, Dylan Sprouse is on hippie commune. He's not happy with it. He's dreaming about like an urban life, going and living in New York City. And they get this swap. They think they've got what they wanted, and they learn that it's not what they wanted at all. And they learn to appreciate what they've had. And that's called character development. Yours is a musical about child soldiers. That sounds terrible. Like, what? I don't understand. You're saying you're going to make yours about serious subjects. It's Jungle to Jungle. Why is it commenting on child soldiers? It's a musical version of Jungle to Jungle.
Because no one gives a shit about the title. No one knows what the fuck Jungle to Jungle is. You could title any movie that and change it up. He goes from a jungle as a child soldier to the New York jungle, the concrete jungle. That's all you need in your movie. It doesn't matter like what the fucking original one was. People are going to go see mine and not even connect it to that, and you don't need to. Same with yours. Your movie has nothing to do with, the original.
All right, I'll let you guys go a minute long. I know where I'm going. Bobby, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, and I was waiting for someone to maybe bring this up, and Tristan hit on it. The name Jungle to Jungle, with even the number 2, I think that fits a twins, fish out of water scenario, and I'd like to see a comedy version. Because you can make comedy out of situations rather than having just Andy Samberg. So his sounded a little bit more interesting to me rather than Johnny's, which sounded a little bit more like it's a sweet story, but I don't know
like
if it really fits what it would be. Like for
a good
what
movie.
I would
It's a
want
musical about child soldiers. That
Yeah.
sounds
little
It's
too
about the
dour.
growth of someone
big
who
box
had.
office draw.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about box office, and
But-
Bobby likes bad movies anyway.
But yeah,
Joe, what's
that's where I
your
would
review?
go.
So my thing is, I feel like if Tristan had picked better twins, like obviously like use the Sprouse twins was a rule, but I feel like you could have used them somewhere else or like included them in this movie in a different way. My thing is with this, I feel like I've seen that movie before. It's like, oh, it's twins switching places and blah blah blah, and I feel like it's also not like, I mean, one of the twins is retired. Like when I thought of this rule, I'm like, okay, you like find a spot to use them in a background. Like I didn't think of like using them as the main pieces in a movie. And so I just don't know if like, I just don't see a scenario in which Tristan's movie is above like like it might be okay, where I think Johnny's movie actually deals with like some interesting things, and I feel like you can make like, because at least from what I got from his movie, we're not seeing him as a child soldier. It's more of like the aftermath of that and dealing with that. And I could see a situation where it's like music is used to calm him and like PTSD and that type of things. And to me, that doesn't sound too bad. It actually sounds interesting, and I haven't seen that before. And so yeah, I'm going with Johnny. Johnny gets the
Boom. Joe got it.
Tristan's in a little bit of a hole. Tristan's
Yeah.
got to pull himself out, but we do have some live comments. Dune Slug on Twitch, he seemed really into Johnny's pick of Tessa Thompson because he's just messaged out, hell yeah, Tessa Thompson. He also asked, what does the score go to? It's a good point to bring up. So first person to 4 points wins. However, at the end of this match, because there are 7 rounds, if someone wins 5-2, then the next time those two people face, the person with 5 points gets a repeat rule, which means they can say, I don't like that rule. I'm going to use one of the other rules twice, while their competitor still has to use all 7 rules. If they win 6-1, then they get a repeated rule, and they also get to name the movie they start with in their next match. And if they win 7-0, then they get an automatic title shot, because how we're doing championships is if Tristan beats Johnny today, he doesn't win the championship. Tristan has to beat me and Bobby to then get a shot at the championship, because someone who's on a 4-game losing streak who gets matched up with Johnny and has a fluke win shouldn't get the championship. So if you skunk someone and win 7-0, I feel like that should deserve you a championship. So that's how scoring works, and that's why we will continue past 4. And we also have Spinner58 commented, great new look, especially the info on the sidebars. Thank you. That was all me. I spent an entire day. I spent an entire 2 days making this, and it was a pain in the cock tube. So, Tristan, where are we going next, and who's going first?
I'm gonna go with the one and only Troll 2, and I'm gonna go first because mine's obviously gonna be better.
All right. Troll 2 came out in 1990, got a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, directed by Claudio Fragasso. And according to Wikipedia, Troll 2 was produced under the title Goblins and conceived as a horror film with elements of comedy. The American producers and distributors were skeptical about its chances to succeed and decided to market it as a sequel to the 1986 horror film Troll. However, the 2 films have no connection, and this movie features no trolls. The plot concerns a family pursued by vegetarian goblins who seek to mutate them into plants so that they can eat them. Production was rife with difficulties, largely due to the language barrier between the Italian-speaking crew and the English-speaking cast, and producer Joe D'Amato's approach to low-budget filmmaking. The resulting film is considered by some as one of the worst movies ever made.
All right, like you said, one of the worst movies ever made, but I've seen this plenty of times. It's one of those so good it's bad kind of cult status movies, you know, like The Room, like Rocky Horror Picture Show, like Killer Clowns. They had the poster up there, but it tried, you know, jumped off the wall right there. But as a big fan of this movie, I know that you cannot make this movie better. All you can do is make it more ridiculous, and the best way to make this more ridiculous is to turn it into a musical. So I called mine Troll 2 the Lackism, which is the musical backwards, just like Nilbog in the movie was Goblin backwards. And the only way to add to that is it's not just a musical. It's a musical starring a bunch of B-movie cult status actors from across the ages who have garnered cult followings. I'll go through the plot really quick. Troll 2 the Lackism is set in 1985. It follows a family who travels to a small Midwestern town filled with strange locals who are secretly trolls. They must use their wits, their love for each other, and their love for music to escape Nilbog before they are eaten and sacrificed by the trolls. In my cast here, the leader of the goblins is none other than Tommy Wiseau from The Room. The sheriff of Nilbog is Matt Hannon, who played Samurai Cop in Samurai Cop 1 and 2, B-movie classics. Grandpa Seth, who is sort of the hallucination of their dead grandpa that I see throughout the movie. It's never explained. He's just kind of there and as a ghost. He's played by George Hardy, who played the lead in Troll 2 originally, and he's kind of a big fan of the fandom around this, so he's eager to kind of get back and do it again, he said. And Michael the dad is played by Charlie Sheen. His B-movie is his entire life. Diana, the mom, is Denise Richards, ex of Charlie Sheen. They're back on good terms now, and she's well known for being in Tammy and the T-Rex, another great B-movie.
Classic.
The daughter is played by Whitney Moore from Birdemic, the lead of Birdemic, a classic, ultimate classic. And the son, the brother of Whitney Moore's character, is Daniel Radcliffe. He seems like a guy who showed up in B-movies now. He just has fun. You know, he's in Guns Akimbo, those kind of movies. He just shows up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm in this weird role in this B-movie. And I totally accept that. Daniel Radcliffe, do you, man. He seems like he'd have fun being in this really cheesy Troll 2 the musical. It's filled with cheesy lyrics, dancing goblins, all original music. Maybe you bring in Pioneer Rex, who did Big Love. They could probably do some of the soundtrack on here. I'm sure they'd make some great music for this. Maybe you bring in the Dickies, who did the Killer Clown soundtrack. They can make a killer, cheesy, awesome soundtrack to Troll 2 the musical. And I know as a fan, I'd be there day 1 to see this, and I'd be there day 2 to see this, and day 3 and day 4, and I'd see it over and over again. The only way you make this any level of relevant is if you appeal to the cult fans of Troll 2, which I'm one of them. And you're never going to make this good. You're never going to make this mass appeal. All you do is lean into what Troll 2 is and make it ridiculous and exaggerated as you possibly can. And that's my pitch.
All right. And one thing before Johnny starts, I forgot to say, is this was the movie that Bobby and I decided on together, so we will be co-choosing the winner for this one. So, Johnny, you're up.
Yeah, we went a different direction. I thought Tristan would come in with more fire than that. And obviously, he's fired up about his own movie, but Jesus fucking Christ, are you kidding me? I don't need more Sharknadoes in my life. So I'm going with Troll 2. I changed things up quite a bit because while Tristan says, oh, you got to embrace it. No, you can go, decently far away from it with keeping some of the same stuff to appeal to some of the other, some of the people that enjoy this movie. So my director is good at doing things like that. He's Drew Goddard. He did Cabin in the Woods, which is kind of the tone style I'm going for with this one. I have 4 leads. My lead, Joshua, is going to be played by Skylar Gacindo, who we cast a lot, but he's really good, and I want to see him in more things. He was in Booksmart, probably his most famous role. Diana is going to be played by Haley Steinfeld. She was great in Edge of 17. She's a good young actress in everything she's in. My Michael is going to be played by Hayden Sito. He was in Edge of 17 as well as Truth or Dare. And then my other character is Holly. That's going to be played by Odia Rush, who was in Lady Bird and Goosebumps. So this is the pitch of my movie. 4 friends decide to stay at Joshua's childhood cabin right outside of the strange little town of Nilbog. The 4 of them get to the cabin. Each couple goes into a different room. Joshua has not been there since he was little, and the cabin is covered in movie posters. He's got Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Batman and the Joker. He's got Aliens. He's got all these different movie posters hanging up. So the gang starts drinking and strange things start to happen. Josh walks into his room and sees all the villains on the movie posters are missing. And he thinks something's weird. Then so his Batman poster used to have the Joker. The Aliens posters not have any aliens. His childhood favorite movie, Troll 2 poster, is missing the goblins. The friends here knock on the cabin. They look to see who it is, and it's a man in a clown suit and a purple jacket. They realize the Joker is after them, so they have to fight off the Joker, and then they have to fight off a bunch of different movie characters coming to try to kill them one after one because the goblin magic in this one is going to just kind of steal those characters, and those characters are going to attack the children in the house. They're not going to be like fully powered aliens because it's just like a powerful evil force stealing the look of the aliens off it, but everything is somewhat easy to kill once they figure out how to do it. And then the last thing that they turn into at the end, Michael starts to eat something and the food turns green, and Joshua knows exactly what that means is coming. He says to stop eating, the food's green, and then Michael dies in the same fashion as the Troll 2 movie originally, and they are attacked by the goblins from Troll 2 with the same style of look as the original. So you get that in there too. So that's my movie. It's basically Cabin in the Woods style. Like you can it has some, it's not really like scary moments, but it has horror tropes and it has the characters kind of commenting on it. And it has some famous movie monsters and characters attacking the kids like the Joker. And obviously my role is include the Joker in the movie. So that's my Troll 2.
All right. Bobby, I've kind of been in the driver's seat for most of this. What are you thinking? Are you feeling any questions?
Honestly, Tristan's, even though it sounds like he's pitching only a movie only he would like, kind of leans into, like, I enjoy those, cult movies as well, and that sounds like a lot of fun. But Johnny's sounds like a legitimately, like, good, fun movie, so I kind of want to hear some defense, like, from that. For Johnny, who's playing the Joker in yours? Like, what version of it is it?
So he's going to look like the Dark Knight Joker because that's the poster that's going to come off of. But I think the only person that can really do that character is Bill Skarsgård, who is Pennywise. So it'll kind of have a reference to him being, the killer clown of it, but he is the Joker. I'd like to see him in that role.
Okay. And Tristan, since you have the actor from Samurai Cop, do you have like one of his monologues, like "I'm telling these crazy son of a bitches" type monologues from him to kind of reference that at all?
Oh, of course, because you think that if you've seen the original, you know that the sheriff is a bad guy and all the town members are the bad guys. So you're kind of assuming that Matt Hannon is going to be a bad guy too. But by the end, he teams up with the family and he gives a huge, great monologue attacking the goblins, saying these damn goblins and these damn monsters, and gives this hype monologue to the family and kind of is like their inspiration for them to get in the charge of the final battle and fight these goblins in the final battle. So he gives like a nice big pep monologue right at the end as a tribute to Samurai Cop.
Okay. Joe, what are you thinking?
I mean, I'm leaning towards Tristan a little bit, but I'm not fully against Johnny or anything. I could definitely easily be swayed by the arguments. I'm like 51-49, so I'm kind of just. What do you say? Do you think we say just 5 minutes on the clock and then we'll make our decision from there?
Yeah, I'd say so, because I'm in a similar boat, but it's pretty split. But I think the arguments can sway me pretty easily.
All right, it's at 51-45. You have until 56-45, and then we'll make our decision. So
I'll just start off and say mine sounds cheesy or ridiculous because it is, and it's going exactly for that crowd. People go and see Chopping Mall in the theater. People go and see The Room in the theater. People will go see this, and I think those movies have a cult following for a reason, and it's because despite being cheesy and ridiculous, there's like an earnestness to it, and I think that you can bring that with all of these guys, like especially Matt Hannon and Tommy Wiseau. Like they've really been able to lean into their persona as these cult film kind of guys, and I think they would have a blast getting the most out of these roles and getting the most out of this movie. And it just sounds like an incredibly fun time. Johnny sounds like an all right movie. You know, it sounds like something that I'd watch and be like, oh, that was pretty cool, and then just like never think about it again. But I'd forever think about the movie that had Tommy Wiseau and Matt Hannon in the same movie together with Charlie Sheen and Denise Richards and Whitney Moore from Birdemic. Like that would be in my movie collection forever. Just like Troll 2 is right here. You know, I would be keeping it side by side with this movie. It'd be Troll 2, the musical, and it would be like the perfect double feature. I think this just sounds perfectly hand in hand with the original Troll 2, and it sounds like it appeals to not just fans of Troll 2 specifically, but fans of the entire sort of B-movie subgenre.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, realistically here, would you rather see Cabin in the Woods or any of the fucking Sharknado movies? Like, there is an audience for Tristan's movie, yes, but the movie's not good. It's literally trash. And while some people can watch these things and be entertained, it felt like homework for me when I watched The Room, and I had to do it with other people's commentary over it. Like, if I were to sit there and watch The Room by myself, I would slit my wrist by the end of it. Like, I cannot watch these type of movies by myself. Like, sure, you put it in a packed theater, maybe you'll get like a couple like people to go see it, and it would be fun, like if some people have it. But how many fucking cities actually have like, oh, this is like Troll 2, the musical, let's all go see it. Let's sell out this theater and we'll have a real big fun time like Rocky Horror Picture Show. No, it's nothing like that. Like, you know, The Disaster Artist is a good movie because it kind of just tells the story of how the other one was made. But I can't watch The Room. I can watch The Disaster Artist. If you're going to make me sit down and watch, like, your movie, even like the stunt casting of your movie literally is, by the time they get to like the sequels of Sharknado, it's Tara Reid and Denise Richards and Matt Lauer and all these people like that. Like Clay Aiken is in one of them. Like, it's just like no one actually needs to see these people act or be in movies. Like, that's a fun little viewing experience that you're going to have once. But what movie, if I'm sitting at home, am I going to put on? The one that has like real actors by a real director and, you know, some actual monsters that's going to be fun. I'm going to watch that. I'm not going to fucking watch your pile of shit B movie that maybe if I'm hammered with my friends one time, I watch it and we just make fun of it. But like, that's one thing. Like, I can watch Cabin in the Woods whenever, but I can't fucking watch your type of movies. Like, I'm not going to sit down and watch Troll 2. Like, that shit is, it's painful. And like, if you're a real film fan, like, that you're sitting down to watch a movie you enjoy. Maybe you have friends over and you watch like some shitty B movie, but like, I can't fucking deal with that. So maybe you win because our judges have like just, they think Sharknado is fun, but like, you can have bad takes. And you know, Tristan, you like movie Cats? Okay, that's fine. No one else is gonna go fucking see Cats. Like, you know, like,
I mean, it's sold out in theaters 3 times a week until the pandemic shut it down. And The Room
And
sells out
everyone
in theaters
hated it.
all the time. The Room sells out all the time. They do monthly showings at a theater by me, and it sells out every single month. Rocky Horror does too. These movies have a huge following. Not just you see it once. Like your movie sounds
No,
like, oh, I
no,
go see
they
it in
don't.
theaters and it's
No,
fine.
they have
You're
these
delusional
things.
if you think they don't
No,
have
they have
followings,
these
dude. They
things.
sell out every single time
If
they
they
screen
threw
them.
out, if they threw The Room or Troll 2
Y'all got 1
in
minute.
a theater
Troll
by
2
me,
sells out every single
no one
month.
is going to go see it. Maybe it does in Chicago at the biggest theater, or Los Angeles in the biggest theater, or New York in the biggest theater, and you have all these people that work in the business and appreciate these movies and go see it. Sure, but no one else is going to see it. That doesn't have actual like wide appeal. You're overselling how many people actually can watch these fucking movies. Sharknado, the first one, got a lot of views, and then every movie since then has gotten less and less and less and less. And by the time like the fucking fifth one came out, like they're getting no viewers. Like people are sick of these style of things, you know. And I think people would rather go see a movie of Troll 2 that is like the disaster artist that kind of does the explanation of how the movie was made, and you have people playing the characters that you are pitching, but actual actors doing so would be fine. But no one, like, your movie, I would fucking kill myself over watching your movie. And if the judges go your way, like, that's fine. It's a bad take. But some people like that stuff. But for me personally, like, I would rather be dead than sit through what you just pitched me.
All right, Tristan, I'm going to give you any rebuttal to what he just said. And then we're up.
I mean, I've seen Cabin in the Woods once or twice, and it was good. I've seen Troll 2, like, 15 times, and I can't wait to watch it. I watched it literally right before we started. I finished. I rolled credits like 10 minutes before I got on this call. So, Troll 2. These movies would not have a following if people didn't. I mean, no one would talk about these if they didn't have a following. So the fact that we're even talking about Troll 2 proves you wrong.
Yeah, there are a lot
followings.
of dumb people in this world. Look who the fucking president was the last 4 years. There are a lot of idiots. I'm not appealing to them. I'm appealing to myself and people who appreciate good films and can't just sit there and watch the guy go, "Oh my god!" again.
All right.
So
that
we're
was
making the
supposed to
same
be a
points over
Tristan
and over.
rebuttal. Yeah.
All right. Bobby, what are you thinking? What are you leaning? So I'm kind of 50-50, so if you're kind of...
Yeah, I mean, they're close because, like, Johnny sounds like a watchable, like, fun movie, but I think a little bit of a hindrance to him is the fact that he used the Dark Knight Joker, and you can't have Heath Ledger. So even though you got a good actor to replace him, I don't really want to see someone else play that role. If you're going to use the Joker,
movie poster.
Yeah, but I'd rather him have a poster of
And
the
it's like
animated.
and it's a
Johnny,
5-minute scene.
I'm judging. I know, but so still, I'd rather have him have a poster of the animated Mark Hamill Joker, and an animated Joker shows up because that's what would come up, and he plays. I'm like something a little different. Tristan sounds like a lot of fun to me that I could watch while hammered, and I do enjoy watching these bad movies every once in a while. Not as much as Tristan does. So even though Johnny sounds watchable, I don't know if it would be one I'd watch more than once or twice or something like that. And Tristan's, I could see getting a group together and watching that movie, especially with the music element. I think that makes it a little bit more watchable and fun.
So is that where your vote's going? Is Tristan?
Yeah, my vote's to Tristan.
Yeah, I was super close, and I kind of feel like I'm not as high as on Cabin in the Woods as most people, and I feel like Johnny's just feels like Cabin in the Woods, but we're gonna take out like some villains and just replace them with other villains. And I feel like I'd feel like if I walked into Johnny's movie and came out, I'd be like, oh, that was well made, but I saw that like it's Cabin in the Woods, and Tristan's felt a little more unique, and I felt like it's definitely like if you're going to see Troll 2 and you see Tristan's movie, you're going to be satisfied because you knew exactly what you were getting and you got what you wanted. And so I'm going to go with Tristan as well. And we do have some live comments.
All right.
Dune Slug again, lighting up the Twitch stream chat, says he doesn't want to hear Daniel Radcliffe sing, though. And then he says, okay, 30 seconds into Johnny's pitch, I'd rather hear Daniel Radcliffe sing. He then said, in all caps with an exclamation point, lean into the cult classic. And he says, yeah, Johnny is all offense and Tristan is all defense. And then when Johnny brought up Donald Trump, he said, ooh, getting political. So there we go. That's a chat. And Johnny, you lost your first round of the night, so you get to pick where we go.
Yeah, I'm swaying here. I don't know what to go with next. You know what? I'm going to go with one I, going into it, maybe thought I wouldn't be high in my pitch because animated movies are maybe tough to do. So I'm going to go with How to Train Your Dragon. And I'm gonna have Tristan go first on this one.
All right, so this was actually Bobby's pick, so he's going to be judging this. But I'll read the little blurb about it. So, How to Train Your Dragon came out in 2010. Got a 99% in Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois. It is an American computer animated action fantasy film loosely based on the 2003 book of the same name. It stars the voices of Jay Baruchel, Gerard Butler, Craig Ferguson, America Ferrera, Jonah Hill, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, T.J. Miller, and Kristen Wiig. The story takes place in a mythical Viking world where a young Viking teenager named Hiccup aspires to follow his tribe's tradition of becoming a dragon slayer. After finally capturing his first dragon, a Night Fury, and with his chance at last of gaining the tribe's acceptance, he finds that he no longer wants to kill the dragon and instead befriends it, even calling him Toothless. And that is How to Train Your Dragon.
All right, for mine, I use the rule that you must resurrect a director's career. And the director whose career I resurrected was Andrew Adamson, who directed Shrek 1 and 2, as well as the first Chronicles of Narnia movie. And he's kind of totally fallen off since then. He hasn't done anything since. I think his work in Shrek 1 and 2 both show he works well in animation fantasy, and Chronicles of Narnia was also fantasy action. So I think he's a perfect choice to resurrect How to Train Your Dragon. But I did a lot to change it up because, like Johnny said, I don't know, it's hard to reboot like a movie that's already pretty damn good in the first place, and it's like an animated movie, so what can you really do better? So instead of doing it better, I just did it differently. And I set mine in feudal Japan. A loyal samurai is looking to prove himself to his new lord, and he's tasked with hunting down a creature who has been attacking workers and destroying farms and fields. His investigation quickly leads him to a large red dragon, and I designed my dragon based off, instead of the traditional like Middle Ages kind of dragon design they used in the movie, I used a feudal Japan design where it's like a wingless scaled serpent, and I have him living in a waterfall cave nearby the town, because in tradition Japanese dragons are very attached to water. So I had him living in a waterfall cave. The samurai initially battles the dragon, but he is quickly defeated and forced to flee. And he's in shameful defeat. You know, if samurai gets defeated, they have to live in shame. And in his defeat, he's rescued by a Buddhist monk who nurses him back to health and teaches him of unity and inner peace. And he uses this new knowledge of unity and inner peace to go back and try and reunite with this dragon. And when he hears of an army of fighters planning to invade the land, armed with new weaponry technology like explosives and firearms, and something that would totally outbattle his swords and shield type weaponry of this era in Japan, he leaves his seclusion to ask the dragon for help. And he proves his change of heart by defeating attackers who are fighting the dragon. And together, the dragon and the samurai begin a reluctant friendship, where they've seen past their sort of antagonistic ways at the beginning of the film, and now they're teaming up to fight off these invaders of Japan and defend the kingdom. And in the end, of course, they save the kingdom, and his master is very proud of the samurai and asks him to come back into his service, but the samurai says, I failed you, I need to, instead of serving you, I'm going to serve the people of Japan. And him and the dragon go off as a duo to fight other monsters and to save the people, and just kind of, off into another adventure at the end. And that's my pitch.
All right. Well, Tristan, I thought going into this, it's kind of a trap to, if you made it live action, it was going to fail. So I agree with you on some of the things you did with yours and the direction you went with yours. But mine, instead of using the guy who did Shrek to make a Japanese film, my director is Hayao Miyazaki, and mine is going to be a Studio Ghibli version of How to Train Your Dragon. So obviously for the like the American voiceover versions of these movies, they always get pretty big names, or at least working actors with some recognition. So I'm just going to kind of read you my cast, and maybe the names will get lost in the shuffle here. But just to give you an idea of some of the people that will be doing mine, my lead will be Hotaru. That's going to be played by Olivia Cook, who is great in Me and Her Only Dying Girl and Bates Motel. My Kano and Kono are twins. They're going to be voiced by Dylan and Cole Sprouse. So this is where I'm including the Sprouse twins. My Nobu is going to be voiced by Nick Jonas. My Sayoko is going to be played by Natalia Dyer from Stranger Things. And those four that I just listed are going to be kind of like the group of friends, like similar to how the Train Your Dragon was with the other kids. And then Hotaru's father, Ronan, is going to be voiced by Jason Bateman. Hotaru's mother, Mia, is going to be voiced by Sonoya Mizuno, who is in Devs and a million other great things, Crazy Rich Asians, and Ex Machina. So here is my pitch. Set in 1700s Japan in a small samurai village, a young girl named Hotaru has always dreamed of being a samurai like her father. The problem is that samurai are all men, and she is always told she is not fit to be a warrior. She tries to prove to everyone that she can be a warrior because of her great inventions. The other kids in her village make fun of her for being so strange and she feels she never fits in. The village also has a major problem. There's a very dangerous group of human-like creatures that the village is at war with. The creatures have dragons under their control and use them to attack the samurai. One day, Hotaru is trying to test her latest invention, a flying suit. She tries to fly over a river from a cliff, and at first it seems like it's working, and then the wing breaks and she crash lands on the other side of the river. She is horrified when she sees the eyes of a dragon staring at her. She tries to run, but is chased down by the dragon. Covering her eyes, she expects to be eaten, but she feels the small dragon lick her face. She realizes this dragon will not bring her harm, and she starts a friendship with him. The small dragon has no teeth, so Hotaru names him Noha. This translates to no teeth in Japanese. Hotaru and Noha form a special bond until one day she is followed by some of the kids in town. The group of kids run to head back to the village to tell the leaders that Hotaru was playing with a dragon, but their trip back is interrupted by creatures. Hotaru sees this because she was chasing them down to stop them. She calls for Noha and rescues the others from the creatures. After this, the other kids become friends with Hotaru, help her keep her secret. They don't tell anyone of the dragon. News of the creature attacking the local village is delivered news of the creatures attacking a local village is delivered to the elders of the village, and the samurai decide they must go help, even though they are highly outnumbered. Ronan leads the samurai to the village to try and help stop the creatures. The kids are scared for their father, so they decide to help. Noha leads the kids to other dragons, and they fly in to help the samurai defeat the creatures and save their parents and the other people in their village. This sets up a third action sequence, and the samurai end up victorious because of the help from Hotaru and the other kids. This helps the elders realize they have to adapt, and their old ways will not keep everyone safe. They embrace dragons and with help from Hotaru, they learn how to train their dragons. So that's my pitch. It's a Studio Ghibli movie. I agree with Tristan as far as like the look of the dragons. It's going to be very similar to like old school Japanese drawings. It's going to be more of like dragons, like similar to Shenron. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly who I was going to do from Dragon Ball Z with like the longer bodies and stuff like that. And I just think there was really only, you had to keep this animated. You could only go a couple directions with it, and I like what I ended up with. Mine is going to be more tone-wise similar to, it's going to have mystical things like Spirited Away, but tone-wise it's going to be closer to like a Princess Mononoke, have more creatures and a little more action in it, like at the end especially. So that's my movie.
All right, Bobby, you're in charge. So.
All right. So it's interesting. I'm a little split because Johnny, I think you fit your director better to the story you're telling, but I think you stuck a little close to the original story. So I kind of want you to defend that as you go. And then Tristan, it's mainly just your director choice. I love your story. I think that's a really good pitch, but just defend how the director of Shrek and Shrek 2 can make this type of movie. I also need to hear a little bit more on themes and stuff that might tie a Studio Ghibli film for Johnny. But I mean, these aren't direct questions, just things you can address as you fight if you want to just get into the 5 minutes. I don't know if you want to do it that way, Joe, or just have him kind of rebut that.
Yeah, I'm split 50-50 kind of, so really, if you want to do 5 minutes, that's good with me. So, yeah, we're at 1:10:20 now, so at 1:15:20, I'll stop the clock.
All right.
I'll start and defend my director choice first off. I think Andrew Adamson showed in these first two Shrek movies it can capture like a really good sense of adventure, and I went for that, like someone who could really capture that sense of fun and the sense of purpose. Like you see, Shrek has a really good arc in those movies, and I think like I want to make sure I get to the heart of the characters a little bit, and I think Andrew Adamson showed in Shrek 1 and 2 that he can have this big fantasy adventure with fantasy creatures, but also have a heart to the characters. So I went with him on that, and I think Chronicles of Narnia showed he has potential to do action and kind of like franchise work really well, but never really went anywhere after he left the project. So I really want to see him get onto another franchise and get his chance to sort of make a story of his own. Like obviously he's adapting How to Train Your Dragon, but it's a much different premises, to a totally different setting. I think it gives him a lot of freedom to roam like he had with Shrek 1 and 2. And I really would love to see him come back and make something great. I've loved the first Shrek movie, the second one too. I love first Chronicles of Narnia. So I'd definitely be down for How to Train Your Dragon from the director of Chronicles of Narnia, the director of Shrek 1 and 2. I just love his sense of fun, his sense of adventure. So that's why I went with him.
Yeah, mine. To answer more Bobby's thing with as far as themes go, the theme of a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies is just growth and understanding, and the growth of young characters into like braver, more adventurous souls who are maybe scared at first. So I think while that is similar to what they do in How to Train Your Dragon, I went towards Studio Ghibli because a lot of the themes of How to Train Your Dragon are very much Miyazaki films. So that is what really stuck with me, why I wanted to go with someone that actually fit with making a similar movie. I don't think you need to change up this movie too much. I think all the story with like the kids is similar in mine, but obviously slight differences. They don't have this weird competition that they're trying to kill the dragon or anything. You don't have the village scared of dragons. It's just that the creatures that they're going against, that's the real enemy. You don't have anything like that in How to Train Your Dragon. You have they want to kill the dragons. They're afraid of the dragons. You have the parents that are encouraging their kids to be warriors. Mine is going to be the samurai's goal. They feel is to keep their kids safe. They don't want them to be fighting. They don't want them to, go out there and risk their lives. But then the kids show that there are other methods to this to keep our people safe, to defeat these evil creatures. And that's kind of the goal by the end of the film. The kids grow into, brave characters that can actually help defend the village and show their worth to their parents that are very old school samurai. This is our way. You don't differ from this. If you know anything about samurai, that's really how they are. And I trust Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki to really nail a story set in Japan about samurai over the guy who did Shrek, which doesn't hold up at all, and Shrek 2, which is fine, maybe a little better than the first one, but also doesn't hold up. And Chronicles of Narnia is just bad. So I don't get the use of this. His animation is not going to look too different than the original one. And I feel like while you can maybe change the story, changing the animation up is going to make a huge difference. A Studio Ghibli movie looks nothing like How to Train Your Dragon. Shrek just looks like an outdated version of How to Train Your Dragon, even the dragon in the movie, Shrek. So I don't get where this is going to really differentiate itself. Or be similar enough. Like if it completely differentiates itself, it's not going to be similar enough to the original to even, use the title. So I wanted to do mine in a new way that keeps some of the same themes of the original, keeps the good stuff of the original, but changes things up to fit my director and my style.
I think mine's very faithful to the original. It's focused on a single warrior who's kind of an outcast, and his relationship with a singular dragon. I think it's very focused. I think yours has too many characters. I think mine is focused on the one character, his one relationship with the one dragon. And you bring in the support like the monk, and also had the monk's daughter as a character in here too. And you have supporting characters, but I really wanted to focus on that core warrior and his core arc in this story. And I think, sure, of course, it's not going to look like Shrek. Shrek came out how many years ago? It's going to look like it came out in 2021. He's not going to do the exact same animation quality of Shrek. It's going to be his chance to go back to animation and make the quality obviously a lot higher and really be able to revisit fantasy. I think you said Chronicles of Narnia is bad, but I think the first one is really good. And as soon as he left the franchise, it all went downhill from there. And I think you can tell from the quality of the movie. The first one's a really fun action movie, and then they got bad. And I think he could turn this into a really fun action movie with a lot of heart. I think Shrek shows he has heart. Chronicles of Narnia shows he has action. I mean, it's a perfect fit. And you criticize mine for having the guy who did Shrek making a Japanese story, and yet your entire cast is like Nick Jonas. Like
Yeah, it's like every Studio Ghibli movie when it comes to the U.S., like Christian Bale doing the voice in Howl's Moving Castle. That's what I'm going for. So yes, that's what they do. That's every Studio Ghibli movie.
All right, but I still think my story just sounds better. I think mine is focused on the characters. It's focused on the one arc of this one character. It's him finding his place in the world, him finding his honor again. I think that's thematically fit to this kind of story, like Japanese samurai era. It was very honor focused. I think having this man who loses his honor and then has to reclaim it, and not reclaiming it through violence against the dragon, but reclaiming it through understanding and relationship to the dragon and inner peace and those kind of things that were very definitive to the samurais of this era. I think it's a different take than him just having to fight the big bad guy. His goal is ultimately to befriend this dragon, and I think it focuses very much on that core relationship and How to Train Your Dragon, and I just think it's a very good fit, and I'm very proud of my movie. I think that my story just sounds a lot better than yours. It sounds a lot more focused. It sounds a lot more character oriented.
All right, we're a minute over the 5 minutes.
My movie has a structure, it has a plot, it has character development. Yours kind of just sounded all over the place, just like Shrek. And honestly, the best part of Shrek, you say yours has a good, central character. The worst part of the Shrek movies when you watch them now is Shrek. The only entertaining things are all of the surrounding characters, whether it's Shrek 1 or Shrek 2. The best characters are all the support characters, and then you criticize mine for having too many, and yours focuses so much on the first one. So I don't really get where you're going with yours. I don't want the guy who did Shrek that was just all pop culture references for an entire series that don't hold up. You watch that movie, you don't even get half the references because they were very much of their time. Your director is not someone who makes movies that stand the test of time. All Studio Ghibli movies stand the test of time, and they always will, because they look timeless, their stories are timeless, and you can tie it to the original themes, to the original How to Train Your Dragon better than your movie can. And while also changing it up enough to make it look different, feel different, and just be a fantastic movie.
All right, yeah, we're over the 5 minutes if you got your ruling.
I think I do, but just to remind Johnny, what was your rule again? Just I got lost in your story. So
the Sprouse twins are in my movie. They play.
That's right.
I think it's T.J. Miller and someone else play like the twin characters.
Yeah, Kristen Wiig.
In the original. Yep. Yeah. This one. Okay. Those characters are both guys, but they're played by the Sprouse twins.
Okay. Well, I think I know where I'm leaning, but I do want some input. So, Joe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think honestly, if Tristan had picked a different director, I might be going his way, but I just don't know if his director really fits his movie, and I like the idea of a Studio Ghibli, How to Train Your Dragon, and I feel like Johnny changed it up enough where it didn't feel like a straight copy. And so I would go with Johnny, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, my first thoughts, Johnny, I didn't love the story you told, but the more you described it, I did like it more and more. And I love the style of Studio Ghibli matched with How to Train Your Dragon. And with Tristan, I think you pitched a better story. Like if you had picked a different director, I think that's in the bag for you, for sure, and that made it a lot closer. But I'd say that Johnny's style and matching the style and the director better to the movie makes it more interesting for me. So I'm leaning that way. So I think I'm going to give Johnny the point.
All right.
Thumbs up. Damn right.
Another bad ruling.
It was an easy ruling. I can't believe it was close.
Yeah, it was all about the director choice for that one.
You guys gotta revisit Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, I like Chronicles of Narnia. It's solid. It's okay, but it just the style.
I didn't think that movie was good. And when that movie came out, I was a kid. When every movie is just good because you're a kid, and I saw that movie.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was fine. It wasn't great.
Yeah.
All right, Tristan, where are we going?
Let's go with. Coming to America.
All right, another Bobby movie, so he's going to be in control on this one too. Coming to America came out in 1988. got a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, directed by John Landis. According to Wikipedia, it is an American romantic comedy film based on a story originally created by Eddie Murphy, who also starred in the lead role. The film also co-stars Arsenio Hall, James Earl Jones, Sherry Headley, and John Amos. Eddie Murphy plays Akeem Jaffer, the crown prince of the fictional African nation of Zamunda, who travels to the United States in the hopes of finding a woman he can marry. And who's going first?
I'll go first.
All right.
So for my coming to America, the rule that I use is to use all Star Wars actors. And my director, I use Taika Waititi. And I'll go through my cast here. Lupita Nyong'o is my lead. She plays a queen-to-be who travels to America in order to find a husband that she can marry in time to become queen. John Boyega is her love interest. He's an activist and recording artist whose family's from Africa, but he's kind of lost his African tradition. He's kind of living an Americanized life now. James Earl Jones, he plays the grandfather of Lupita. We're playing a similar role to his role from the original, where he played the father of Eddie Murphy's character. So having him come back and playing Lupita's grandfather in the opening act would be a nice callback to the original, as well as using a Star Wars actor. Ewan McGregor plays a ridiculous record executive, who's John Boyega's kind of leader of his record company that he's working for. And Billie Lourd is the quirky and privileged daughter of Ewan McGregor's character. She's kind of a mega rich, spoiled kind of girl. I think she played that really in a really fun way. She's had some fun roles in like Booksmart and things like that. So when she set up for an arranged marriage before taking the throne, Queen-to-be Adana Jofer decides to set out to America to find a love of her own. She's been told many stories of the wondrous opportunities that America presents, and she heads to New York City, where she soon befriends Kelly Marie Tran's character, Carrie. She's in a small role here just because I love Kelly Marie Tran. She finds herself a job as a secretary for this music label run by Ewan McGregor, his eccentric character, and Billie Lourd's spoiled Kate. I wanted to use that because in the original, Eddie Murphy gets a role at like a McDonald's essentially, and even though the job sucks, he's so optimistic and so bubbly that he kind of loves it and isn't aware of the fact that it sucks. And I think her working in this sort of like grind yourself to the bone secretary job at this ridiculous record company would be fun, because she would be having a great time, even despite the fact that as outside viewers, we know that this job is not like the best. I think she could pull that off pretty well. She's been in some comedies that I think she could, especially with Taika Waititi, you can get that kind of dry fun out of these characters, like Ewan McGregor's ridiculousness compared to Lupita Nyong'o's character. And we have her meet John Boyega's character at this record label, and they grow close and they're connecting about like their African heritage. And Lupita's obviously very in touch with her African roots because she's from Africa and she just came to New York. And John Boyega is totally out of touch with it. And so together they kind of learn a little bit from each other, and John Boyega is back in touch with his African roots by the end, and she's kind of seen the glory and the highs and lows of America, just like in the original Eddie Murphy meets a activist at a protest, and I wanted to sort of tribute that with John Boyega. He's very active in protesting, so I think he could have a good time with this role. I think Taika Waititi could bring out the fun in these interactions and the kind of campiness of all these characters in this world. And I just think it would be a really fun time to see all these actors interact with each other in a Taika Waititi kind of tone of a movie. That's my pitch for it.
All right.
Okay, interesting. All right. So my coming to America, I am resurrecting a director's career. And that director is a man named Greg Mottola. Greg Mottola. He did a little film called Superbad back in the day, as well as Adventureland. And he really hasn't done anything good since. He's done some TV work, but he really hasn't done any film work. So I kind of want to bring him back. I think he could do comedy well nowadays. And I'm also changing the setting, because if you just are rebooting Coming to America, I don't understand why you would ever have connections to Africa in the original country. So my country is going to take place, it's a Asian country called Sunda. And my Princess Aki, that's my lead, is going to be played by Aquafina. Sammy, who is kind of the what's his name role, the other lead of Coming to America.
Arsenio Hall.
Arsenio Hall role is going to be played by Yifo Lee, who was Mulan. My Queen Lee is going to be played by Michelle Yeoh. And my Owen, which is going to be the love interest, is going to be played by someone who I think fits with my character in the movie and can do comedy well, is Nicholas Hoult. I like what he's kind of done in his career. So that being said, here's my pitch. Aki is a rebellious princess in the country of Sunda. Her mother is Queen Lee, who is very traditional and does not understand Aki's lack of passion at becoming the next queen or finding a husband. Aki is presented with new men every day, but she blows them off and criticizes them. Queen Lee has the idea to send Aki to America to find a husband and sends their loyal bodyguard Sammy with her. Aki finds work at an Americanized Chinese restaurant in New York with Sammy. They stay undercover, and Aki is keen on keep on roughing it. When Aki is exploring New York City, she meets a man named Owen at a coffee shop that he owns. Owen is different than all the men she has ever met. He is very awkward around her, does not bow down to her like the men her mother has introduced to her in her old country. Aki and Owen start going on dates and fall in love. Everything is going well until Aki is visited by her mother. Her mother says she has spent too much time in America and needs to come home. Owen is in the apartment and is shocked when he finds out Aki has been lying to him this whole time about who she is. He leaves upset, thinking this was all some sort of game, that she was messing with him. And then Aki wants to run after him, but her mother says she must come home, and there is a flight leaving in an hour. They found the perfect man for her back home. Sammy is ordered to bring Aki back with them and drive her to the airport. Aki is in the back seat telling Sammy that she trusted her and thought they were friends and feels betrayed that she is listening to her mother over her. Just then, the car takes a sharp turn and heads straight to Owen's coffee shop. Aki runs out of the car and has a heartfelt moment with Owen. She explains she does not want to live the life of royalty and wanted to find someone who loves her for herself, not for her riches. Owen and Aki kiss, and they live happily ever after. My pitch is kind of short to the point where I think you kind of have to do with Coming to America, but situation-wise, it's going to be similar. The thing that I wanted to change up is obviously the country of origin. I want it to be different in that sense. I want it to feel different. I love Awkwafina. I would go see anything she does. She is just one of the most watchable actresses in all of Hollywood right now. And I like the idea of changing up the like the friend role to not a friend, but someone sent there by her mother. It's not their choice to kind of sneak away and go. I like changing that story up, and Sammy kind of learns to tolerate and then befriend Awkwafina, who's always like on her phone and making references that she doesn't understand, whereas everything else in the country is very traditional. And I think Awkwafina fits my role well. I think all my actors work, and that's my Coming to America.
All right, Bobby.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, do you have any questions first, Joe? Like,
no, I mean, I basically understand both of their pitches pretty well. I think I know what they're going for.
Yeah,
each of them.
and that's kind of where I am too. So if you had any, I wanted to get them out of the way. But I just want to hear, because we didn't get a ton, like I got some of the situational humor from Tristan's, but just for both of you during your pitches, describe the humor and how it comes into the movie, especially with your director choices. But other than that, fight it out.
I think mainly like you'll still have them go to like a basketball game or in something instead, like they go to a Knicks game and you have similar situations of the first one in terms of that, but the humor is completely different. I think in the original it was more fish out of the water in sense of like, oh, they come to America and it's very different because they're very traditional. Eddie Murphy is very proper and all this. And I think Awkwafina is basically very Americanized and always on her phone and on social media, and she's very different than the rest of her family. That is why they sent her to America, because they think maybe they'll find someone there. So when she gets there, she has more of an understanding of the culture. But Sammy, who's Yifi Lu, who played Mulan, is very traditional and does not have an understanding of the culture. So when someone comes in to like the Chinese store and they think they're and like trying to rob it, similar to the old one, instead of both of them just like beating him up with a broomstick, Awkwafina runs in panic and hides under the counter, but then Sammy takes him out, beats him up. Like, I think changing up the lead character is important, like the tone of the character and into the situation. She feels a little more comfortable in New York, but she does still miss her family because she's still, understands that and is still close with them. But I think Awkwafina, if you put her into a role, you can't make her like the Prince Akeem type proper role. You kind of have to have someone different. So that's kind of how my humor is a little different. I think I picked a director kind of do that, and actors and actresses that can kind of nail that.
For me, Taika Waititi, I think, defines the humor here. I think you can pull off the dryness, but also you can pull off like these very larger than life kind of characters. Like Ewan McGregor's record executive is going to be kind of larger than life, and Billy Lord in a lot of her best comedy roles, he's always kind of strange and larger than life. And I think he could have these ridiculous characters placed in this more real world, and that's something that I think Taika would do a really good job with. And I think you have that fish out of water humor too, with Lupita being in America and the idea of what she was told America is compared to what it is in front of her. But she's so optimistic that she's not quite seeing like the darkness of what's around her. She's still seeing like the optimism of this American dream. And Taika, in something like Jojo Rabbit, is able to weave in a little bit of serious themes into comedies. So I think he could examine like this Western dream of like people coming to America trying to pursue a new life and being met with this wall of reality when you get here. And I think he could weave in those serious themes while also having a lot of fun with the characters and a lot of fun with the fish out of water humor, and just really getting a lot of great performances out of people like Billy Lord, people like Ewan McGregor, who I feel like are really dying to do these comedy roles. And when they get the chance, you can tell like Birds of Prey was not all that good, but Ewan McGregor was having the time of his life doing it. And I think you give that kind of performance to a better director and a movie that fits more to it, and he would do a much better job. So I just think Taika Waititi could really get great humor out of this premise.
All right, you guys got anything else for us?
No,
Yeah, that's more just you guys are just kind of fighting it out right now. So
do we want to put a time limit on this, or are we good? Because I mean, we're
Just
only
do it.
an hour and a half in, so we got time.
Yeah. The time limit thing we're going over anyway. So my main argument against Tristan's is Taika Waititi is such a great, unique filmmaker that does things so differently than anyone else. If he was going to remake Coming to America, I wouldn't want it to have any similarities to the original other than the premise of them being sent to America. And I think yours, even with your characters, with them coming from an African country and coming, in the same way, like, oh, it's an arranged marriage that they're escaping from. Like, I'm not interested in seeing Taika do things that have been done before. I think your movie would be more interesting if, instead of the fish out of water scenario that you pitched, if your characters were from a New Zealand style country and you had like a Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi pairing come to America, and they're very nice to everyone, and they go to New York, but everyone's just mean to them. And they're like, we don't get America. Like, more of that sense of humor, I think, fits Taika better. I don't get, your movie doesn't actually flow or match well with the type of humor that Taika has shown in his movies and is good at. Usually his humor comes from, even like when he voices the alien character in like Thor Ragnarok, it's usually very dry humor of being this nice, polite character. And then the people around them react differently to that. I think the idea of Coming to America originally was you have characters that are reacting to the people around them, but a Taika Waititi movie, which you didn't describe, would be all of the characters, like the two main characters reacting to the things around them in like a more unique, different way. Like, America is just America. People are rude here. They're mean to you. They don't want to say hi to you. They don't want to, maybe the culture in the country they come from, they walk up to everybody they meet and shake their hands. If you try to do that to someone on the street of New York, they're going to punch you in the face. Like, I like more humor like that, and I feel like that fits Taika's style. I don't think you pitched a Taika movie. I think you just pitched a Coming to America very similar to the original with Star Wars actors, and then just slapped Taika Waititi on there. And it doesn't mesh well for me.
I think Lupita Nyong'o's character is exactly what you pitched. I mean, she's out of her element. She's nicer than everybody else around her, and everybody and all these characters around her are just larger than she is, and she's reacting to these crazy characters in her very optimistic way. I mean, you pitched my exact character when you said I wasn't doing it, and you have Ewan McGregor, you have Billy Lord, these larger than life characters, but it's all rooted in Lupita Nyong'o's very nice character who's just wanting to see the dream of America come true, and she's interacting with all of these bizarre characters around her and reacting to that. But I think that's Taika's style very well. I mean, I think that's his humor, is characters that are nice and dry reacting to characters that are way larger than they are.
But why did you keep the story so similar to the original if it's a Taika movie? I feel like it would be way more unique and way more Taika. And your movie never, if you left out the director until the end of your pitch, nothing of what you actually pitched, I would have been like, that feels like a Taika movie. And I feel like if you pitch a Taika movie during the pitch, like I should feel like, oh, these characters match what I've seen him do before, or the humor kind of fits his style. Like I just never felt that in yours. It feels like two different things, and you slapped a director that you know both the judges like onto it, even though you're not even as big of him on it as the rest of us. I think if you picked a director that maybe you're more passionate about, you could have pitched something stronger. And I feel like you just made a pitch you wanted to do and then slapped a director that you thought was maybe pandering to the judges. I don't think your movie actually fits the director you picked, and I don't think you really even like Taika movies that much. You were lower on Jojo Rabbit than us. You don't like Thor Ragnarok. Like you don't even like his style of humor. So I don't get why. It just feels like you are so passionate about usually everything you pitch. This disappoints me because Troll 2 was like, okay, Tristan pitched everything that he loves, and this one is like, oh man, Tristan just picked Taika because Bobby and Joe respect him as a director. And you're smiling right now because you know I'm fucking right, Tristan.
I'm passionate about Ewan McGregor and Billy Lord. I think they could both give really good performances in this movie. And Taika Waititi, as much as I criticize him, I think all his movies are good and they're all enjoyable, fun movies to watch. And on paper, Thor Ragnarok compared to like What We Do in the Shadows aren't that similar, you know, and I think the tones are different, but he's able to go in there and apply his style and apply his tone, apply his humor to these vastly different premises. And sure, the premise is not something he's done before, but that's why I want it. Like, I don't want to just do the same kind of thing. Thor Ragnarok is nothing like What We Do in the Shadows. It's nothing like Jojo Rabbit.
But the humor is very similar, actually, if you look at just the basis of the comedy in them. If you break down the style of comedy, it is very similar in those movies. Even Thor Ragnarok, which is maybe more outrageous. If you look at What We Do in the Shadows, and it has the vampire fight where they jump at each other. If you look at that scene, it is very similar to like, you can find comparisons and contrast that with Loki reacting to the Hulk showing up. Like just characters doing Taika type things. Like when I see a Taika joke, I know it. Like I'm a big fan of Flight of the Conchords, obviously you guys aren't, but when I watch an episode that he directs, I know it right away. Like when I first watched the show, I'm like, oh, Taika had to have directed this because he has a very similar style of comedy that runs throughout his movies. And I don't think it fits with John Boyega and your characters kind of coming from where they come from. Like I said, like your movie, if it was Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi, and they're the two main characters, and they came from a New Zealand type country, and they came to America, I feel like you could have done something well with that, and it would have felt like more of the movie. But your movie just feels like you wrote a pitch that you kind of liked, and then you slapped the director on there that doesn't really fit. And mine, I thought a lot about what director I wanted to do. I thought about the actors I wanted to put in there. I feel like Awkwafina's style of humor works well. I want her to come to America and be following some guy on Instagram and getting on a date with him, and then when that date happens, she realizes this dude's an asshole. That's not what I'm looking for. But she's big on social media and stuff like that. I want more like modernized humor of Coming to America. Yours doesn't sound anything different than the original as far as like the style of comedy. Mine would be more of an updated character, a completely different character than Prince Hakeem in the original, played by Awkwafina, who is more in touch with the world around her coming to America and then feeling out of touch because it's not what she pictured it being. Not someone just being fish out of the water the whole movie, you know. So I think something like that is more modern and just better for the style of film that I'm playing.
So really quick, I think we might have our ruling, but Tristan, just because Johnny went on that last rant, if you have any new, you know, points you want to bring up, you can do that, and then we'll we can get to our ruling.
I think Taika is a great fit. I think Awkwafina's character, the way you described her, doesn't fit with Coming to America. The whole idea is that, I mean, you said Lupita Nyong'o. My Lupita Nyong'o's character does have this false idea of what America is, and she comes to America and starts to realize that what she thought America isn't actually what it is, and that's the same exact arc for my character, and you're using it to defend your character, but I'm doing the exact same thing in my movie.
But can I touch on that real quick before you guys decide on it? What I was saying was, I was defending it in terms of your movie is very similar to the original in terms of how the character like grows, and that's not what Taika would be doing. I think yours fit with the pitch you did, but it doesn't fit with the director you picked. Mine fits with the character and the director that I picked because it's more of someone who thinks they have an understanding of America, comes to America, doesn't really understand it. Yours is, again, more of the same from what we've seen, and the last thing I want to see from Taika is more of the same.
Okay. All right. I think I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going. Joe, what are your thoughts?
So my thing against Johnny's is I kind of feel like his fatal flaw in his movie is if Awkwafina's character is so Americanized, I almost feel like her parents would be like, don't go to America and try to keep her away from America rather than push her towards America. But outside of that, I really enjoyed everything about his movie. I like Awkwafina as like the new Prince Akeem, basically in that type of role. I loved her in The Farewell. She was the best part of Crazy Rich Asians for me. And I think it's just a really great casting choice. And my thing against Tristan's, for the most part, he talked about Lupita Nyong'o in comedies, and since I wasn't making the official ruling anyway, I spent some time looking on her IMDb. Like, she's had comedic roles in, like, The Force Awakens, but I didn't really see her have, like, any really comedic, like, leading roles before, and I just don't know if I can picture her as, like, the lead in a comedy. Like, I almost feel like that's not what she does or anything she's done in the past or what I'd even like to see her do. And I think
she was in a comedy, Little Children, I think it was called. She played like a teacher during a zombie apocalypse, and she had to defend the kids during a zombie apocalypse. That was what I was thinking of when I cast her.
All right. But either way, I feel like to me, Johnny had the dagger when, because as he was talking, I'm like, oh, if you're gonna do Taika, do Coming to America, it should be like about someone from like a Maori tribe coming to America, and that's kind of what Johnny said. And I feel like if you're gonna do Taika and do that type of humor, I feel like that fits more and it separates it more from the original. I feel like that's almost the way to go. Granted, it'd be harder to do Star Wars actors, but you have Tamara Morrison, you have other people in Star Wars that fit the Maori.
Taika. Taika is an actor in Star Wars and The Mandalorian, so
that's true as well.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if it were up to me, I'd give Johnny the point.
Yeah, and honestly, as you went with your pitch, Tristan, I agreed with Johnny. It didn't really sound like a Taika pitch, and I think he kind of, hit on that you're not quite as big of a fan on Taika and than as we are, and it kind of came through in your pitch. But I think the biggest flaw for Johnny was actually the director choice for me, and if you had hammered that at all during the arguments, then it might have made it closer. Because I don't think that Superbad style comedy fits what Johnny pitched necessarily, but you never really hit on that. And I like Johnny's movie pitch better and Awkwafina better and what he describes. So I'm going Johnny, and he gets the win.
Yeah, bitches.
Yeah, so
Bobby, to defend mine real quick against you, because Tristan didn't bring up, but I had an argument on it, was the idea of Superbad is you start off with characters that really have the idea of the women they want to, like, I need to be this person to make this person like me. And then Michael Cera's character, the one that he thinks is like this innocent girl, is the one that gets hammered drunk. And then it's the opposite with Jonah Hill. Like, Emma Stone is like this, I don't drink, I don't party. And my movie is very much that in terms of Awkwafina has this feeling of what do I need to be in America to really make this work? And the other thing I cut out of my pitch to make it a little shorter was like her mom's idea of sending her to America was, I think she'll hate it there. Like she won't actually find anyone and will find someone when she's gone. So I think that if that had been brought up in the argument, I would have hit on both of those points because I had both of those thought out.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I didn't hammer it, because I figured you didn't get a chance to rebut it in the first place. But that was when I was listening, I was waiting for that to at least get brought up, and it didn't. So that's still a really good pitch. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, so we got two movies left, and Tristan is fighting basically for Johnny not to have a repeater rule the next time they play. And so our options, I think, are now down to Too Fast, Too Furious, and The Man Who Knew Too Much. One of them is my pick, and one of them is Bobby's pick. So, Tristan, where are we going next?
Let's go with The Man Who Knew Too Much.
All right, and that is my pick. So, The Man Who Knew Too Much came out in 1956. got an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It is an American suspense thriller starring James Stewart and Doris Day. The film is about Dr. Ben McKenna, played by James Stewart, on vacation with his wife, played by Doris Day, and their son in Morocco when a chance encounter with a stranger sets their trip and their lives on a drastically different course. The stranger, killed in front of the family in the marketplace, reveals an assassination plot to the Americans. The couple's son is abducted in order to ensure the plot is kept secret, and suddenly the mother and father, with no help from the police, must figure out a way to get their child back.
I'll go first on this.
All right.
For my rule, I use what must be a Martin Scorsese movie. And my cast, I use some Scorsese classics. Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie reunited on screen once again in a Scorsese movie. Margot Robbie in particular I picked because Doris Day was typically a comedy actress and not really known for her drama work. And I think Margot Robbie started to enter that territory too. She's done some dramatic roles, but she's much more known for being Harley Quinn. And I think this could be a role that gets her back into like the dramatic focus of an actress. I brought back Matt Damon to play the spy that tips him off and is kind of a character throughout my version of the movie. And the assassin is somebody that Scorsese has not worked with before, but someone that I want him to work with is Josh Brolin. I think he could get a really good performance out of Brolin and get that kind of inherent fear and intimidating badassery of Brolin out of him. So why change something that's already pretty great? You know, Hitchcock already remade this once and said that this first one was an amateur getting started, and the second was like a all-star director finally at his prime making a movie, something like that. And I mean, the plot structure is pretty simple. The two leading characters are tipped off about a assassination attempt, and then the child is kidnapped by the would-be assassin, and now these two have to work together to track down their child, and meanwhile fighting against this assassin. And I wanted Margot Robbie and Leo to both be very active in the plot. I didn't. Doris Day was not like super active comparatively to Jimmy Stewart in the original, so I want them both to be very active in this. And I think Leo plays a great kind of leading man who could perfectly pull off like a father who's in over his head and now having to go and push himself to the edge to save his son. And I think Margot Robbie returning to Scorsese is a perfect role to get her back in the dramatic spotlight, like I said. So I think both of these two working together in this thriller. Scorsese pulls off thrillers really well, crime thrillers. Johnny brought up Scorsese's really good work in crime thrillers in The Departed earlier. So I was going for like a Departed tone here. You're seeing these two people having to get into the crime world and track down their child, and it's just a really tense thriller where you're watching these two struggle to get back their child against all odds. And that's my pitch.
All right.
Johnny, what do you got?
Okay, so my The Man Who Knew Too Much. My rule is I'm using Star Wars actors, but my director is a man named Martin Campbell, who did a little film called Casino Royale, because that is a great spy movie. And he also did the Zorro movies and a lot of great
Green
stuff.
Lantern.
In Green Lantern. He was honestly my first choice of resurrecting a director's career, but he did The Foreigner a couple years ago, so I was like, you know what, I don't know if he exactly counts as that, but I feel like I could have made the argument if I wanted to, but I don't. I just think he's a good director who got picked for the wrong movie for Green Lantern, but you know, I like The Foreigner. So my cast is Dr. Benjamin McKenna, Ben, originally James Stewart. That's going to be played by John Boyega. My Josephine McKenna, Joe, originally Doris Day, is going to be played by Natalie Portman. My Bernard, who is the man in disguise who tells them about the plot, is Liam Neeson. And my Clive, who is a corrupt MI6 agent trying to assassinate them, is going to be played by Joel Edgerton. And then I have two assassins that are after them that work for Clive, played by Iko Uwais and Yayan Ruhuin, who are from the Raid movies.
And also The Force
So they don't need
Awakens.
it. And The Force Awakens. But they were not used properly in The Force Awakens, so I'm going to use them as assassins in this movie. So here's my pitch. A married couple on vacation at a resort, Morocco are befriended by a man named Bernard. They meet while touring the resort and instantly hit it off with the charming stranger. They have dinner that night and discuss their careers and their lives. Bernard said he recently lost his wife and is away on vacation for the first time without her. Ben explains that he is a former soldier who was honorably discharged and is currently working as a banker. His wife, as a doctor. I fucked that up. And then his wife, Jo, is a reporter set to report on the basically the meeting of the South African president in Morocco, which is kind of a historic event. So she'll be covering that, and it's kind of she knows all about this, how meaningful this is politically. So the dinner goes well. They make plans the next night. Ben and Jo are surprised when Bernard is a no-show for their dinner plans and wonder what happened to him. After dinner, they head back to their room. When they open the door, they see Bernard laying on the couch, injured. He reveals to them that he was stabbed and that he is actually a secret agent working to stop an assassination plot of the South African president scheduled to be coming to meet with the political leaders of Morocco in a few days. He needs to get this information to someone before he dies because he was not supposed to be on this mission. He realized people in MI6 were corrupt and went against their will to try and stop this from happening. And also explains to them that the police and everyone around them is corrupted. Please don't go to the police because they will kill you. So Bernard bleeds out and dies on the couch. Ben and Jo are soon given no choice but to carry on the mission because the eyes of the dangerous men who killed Bernard discover they know too much. So the whole movie is basically kind of a rat race of them trying to stop this assassination plot. You have someone who's a former soldier and someone who knows all about the plan of the meeting because she's a reporter, kind of understanding what's going to, happen. So you have two people that are aware of the situation, feel that they need to stop it because if they don't, they'll just be killed anyway because the assassins know what they did. I got rid of all of the kidnapping plot and all of that because I felt like it was too similar. You've already had two versions of this movie before. So I got rid of some of the aspects and kept it more of a spy thriller that's more modern day. It didn't really make sense in the original if you watch it back that anything with like the kid being kidnapped, and I felt like just dropping that plot completely worked better for my story that I'm trying to tell. And I like picking the director of Casino Royale, which is the best spy movie of the last 30 years, doing another great spy movie.
Right.
So that's my pitch.
Quick question for Johnny. I missed who plays Dr. Ben in your movie?
Dr. Ben is played by John Boyega.
Oh, okay. Bobby, do you have any questions?
No, I like both pitches quite a bit, so I'm just ready to hear him fight it out.
Yeah,
I didn't really need any specifics.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same spot. So, I mean, we got some time left. I'm not really going to put any time on the clock on this one. So, yeah, you guys can fight it out.
I'll go first on this. Your director, I think, is your weaker choice. Like, sure, Casino Royale is a really good movie, but Green Lantern is pretty bad, and Foreigner is like fine, And I just don't really think that's a director whose career I want to be revived. Casino Royale almost feels like a one-off hit for him, and everything else he's done has been kind of a miss. So, like, sure, it would be a revival technically, but I don't know if I want his career to be revived. Like, there's nothing interesting about his Green Lantern. The director of Green Lantern is going to make a spy thriller. Like, that's not really something that I'd be on the line for, Yeah,
well, my thing with that is this, like, you've seen it happen in directors' careers before where they really nail certain types of movies they go for. They're very good at action movies. Like, okay, the Zorro movies I think are incredible, the Antonio Banderas ones, and that's what Martin Campbell did. He was on a hot streak. He did Vertical Limit, which was the big hit in 2000. Mask of Zorro was 1998. GoldenEye, which is probably the second best Bond movie, was right before that. And then he did the sequel to Zorro, which was also good, and then Casino Royale. He also did Edge of Darkness, which was a Mel Gibson movie that actually was really, really good. I thought that movie was very well done. And then they just thought, hey, he's a big name. He's basically rebooted the Bond franchise twice. He can do Green Lantern, but he didn't know anything about Green Lantern. So he was just slapped on there. I don't blame him at all for that movie. I think if you look at that movie, the worst part of that is the writing, the story, the needing to do the CGI things. But he was kind of like just a name they slapped on that movie. Nothing in that actually had anything to do with him. I thought The Foreigner, yeah, it's a good cable action movie, but it's kind of him getting his footing back, working with the movie he's more comfortable with. So I think he'd be great to come back and do another spy action movie that he is famous for.
All right, I'm just gonna say for right now, Green Lantern is completely different than The Man Who Knew Too Much, and my only problem with The Foreigner was how it was marketed. It was marketed as a Jackie Chan action movie when that's not what it is.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just harping on this point isn't going to get anybody anywhere because I kind of my mind made up on Martin Campbell directing this movie. So
yeah, and obviously, I think just going with someone I feel like has done the main thing for pitching directors for reboots that we do on the show is pitching basically the tone of what we're going for, and I'm going for the tone of a Casino Royale. Or while it's completely different, I'm going for the tone of a Zorro movie. It's more action. It's a spy movie. And I like my cast for this because John Boyega would honestly be my pick for the next James Bond if they did another Bond actor. I think he is perfect for that role. And I want to see him kind of do that spy stuff. I want to see him be in action movies and do those things. So I really like him, and obviously Natalie Portman's amazing. So I want to see her kind of be. And you also don't see in movies the man being younger than the woman in the role. And Natalie Portman looks great, but she's like 12 years older than him. I think that couple works. And then I just like kind of changing this up from the original. You could see this and be like, yeah, the title makes sense, but even if you've seen the original movie or if you have no idea what the original movies are, you can see this and enjoy it and feel like it is a different story. I don't need the kid kidnapping plot. I don't need any of that same similar stuff that we've already seen twice. I think I'd maybe feel differently if this wasn't something that's already been, done as well as it could have been back then. The other thing about it is the original one was more like probably the most comedy that Hitchcock ever got. And I don't think that stuff really worked that well. I don't think this movie super holds up as far as watching it back because it's played more out like a comedy, especially the stabbing scene. And I think just getting rid of some of the comedy aspects and making this more of a solid action thriller is more the direction I'd want to go with this plot line in 2021.
For me, I went with Scorsese because I think if you're going to remake a Hitchcock movie, that's massive shoes to fill. You can't give it to someone who's like a good director. You have to give it to somebody who's like the top tier, someone who's going to be in the history books of directors right next to Hitchcock. And I think Scorsese is like a modern day Hitchcock almost. People line up and see his movies, no matter what the genre is, no matter what the premise is, no matter who's in it, people go see it. And I think Scorsese has that level of caliber that he can take something Hitchcock did and add his own grit, add his own style, add his own tone and his own actors, but still pay tribute to what Hitchcock did. And you criticized it a bit for being too accurate to the original, but I tried to focus a lot more on the kidnapping itself because, like you said, the kidnapping is kind of a weaker part of the original. So I wanted to take that idea and really run with it and really make it like something great. And I think Leo and Margot Robbie together working to get their kid back makes it much more like a personal connection to the plot rather than, we got to stop this assassin because it's the right thing to do or whatever. It's we got to save our kid. That's like an emotional attachment people can connect to. That's something I would connect with, like someone that you're emotionally attached to these characters and their actions and their goals. They're not just doing it because they're trying to save a politician's life or whatever. They're doing it because it's their kid. They don't even care that much about the politician. They're just there because they want to save their kid. And that's what I wanted to focus on. Like, I think Scorsese can pull it off really well. He does great crime thrillers. He has these gritty characters who are in it for their own kind of gain. And I think you mentioned The Departed too. I think The Departed is a good example of Scorsese's ability to take an acclaimed original movie and just kind of do his own thing with it and have elements of the original story, but he didn't even watch The Departed, the original movie of it, and he still made a great adaptation with some story beats of the original, but ultimately made it his own movie. And I think that's what I want Scorsese to do. I want him to take the idea that Hitchcock came up with and modernize it, make it exciting, make it a Scorsese movie, make it something that I would love to see. Because I love Scorsese, I love Hitchcock, and if you're gonna remake Hitchcock, like you gotta really step up. Like I think of that Psycho remake that was just literally shot for shot and boring, and it was like, why am I watching this? But if you tell me Scorsese is remaking a Hitchcock movie, I'm gonna be a lot more confident going into that, and I think he's skillful enough to pull that off.
I think the problem with Scorsese for your movie, which is really the last point I have to make, is, well, your cast are just people that have worked with him before. That's fine. He likes working with new people a lot, unless he's just returning, like De Niro and stuff. But my problem with Scorsese is his worst movies are the ones that he kind of goes out of his maybe comfort zone. Like The Last Temptation of Christ is probably the worst movie I've seen that Scorsese directed. And The Gangs of New York, well, I think is a fun movie, is one of his weakest. And those are movies that if you watch those, you wouldn't necessarily think those are Scorsese. I think your movie, while you were trying to compare it to The Departed was a pretty linear story that was set in one place that is about undercover agents and cops. Your movie is a spy thriller about a kidnapping that doesn't really mesh well with what Scorsese has done before. And I just think him going and doing a story that actually doesn't really match what he's done before I think it would still be a good movie because Scorsese is a great director. Like Hugo is different than he's done, but Hugo is not in the top 10 Scorsese movies. That's just a good movie, I think the problem with it is Scorsese's maybe doing something that Scorsese doesn't know anything about international spies and kidnapping movies. Like, he's never done anything like that before. I'd rather see him do something like the movie I pitched earlier, where it is more in his comfort zone, is more of something that he's done before. Especially at the age he is now, I feel like everything he does now will be returning to form of old movies he's done. I wouldn't be surprised by that. Even The Silence was more of a return to religion and questions of religion, like Last Temptation of Christ. But again, those are some of his worst movies. So I just think with him, I don't really love the fit with him as your director, just because I think it's a little too different than what he's done. And if he was 20 years younger and he did a spy thriller, I think it probably would have been fine. But I think at this point in his career, he's really only interested in going back and doing things he's done. And I think he can do that very well. But I think your movie actually sounds very different than anything he's done. It doesn't really sound like The Departed, based on the original movie. That's nothing like The Departed or Infernal Affairs. And I think just that's basically my biggest point to hit on yours. I would definitely go see yours because it's Scorsese, but I think it would be another disappointing Scorsese film like his last couple.
I think this is similar to what he's done before. It has the crime elements, it has the thrill elements, it has like the violence elements, but I personally think it's more interesting when Scorsese gets out of his comfort zone a bit. Like, I thought Irishman was good, but for me, I was like, I've kind of seen this already. Like, I've seen Scorsese do like a mob biopic thriller movie like how many times by now. I want to see him in similar tones to what he's done, crime and violence and those kind of thrills, but getting to a premise he's never done before, getting to types of characters he's never used before. I think Scorsese has such a varied filmography. He has so many different genres and different eras of movie. Like he said, he did Last Temptation of Christ, and then a few years later it was Silence. And like, he's been all over the map of genres, and I think that's what makes him interesting. Is people see him as this mob director guy, but he's done a lot more than just that. So I think giving him these elements that define his career, the crime and the grit, could still attach people like you who want him to be a little more in his comfort zone. But I think it could also bring people like me in, because I want to see him do something a little bit out of his comfort zone. I love Last Temptation of Christ. I like movies like that where he's just doing his own thing and he's not trying to like repeat what he's done before. He's just saying something that he feels. And I think that this would be something that I would really, really like to see Scorsese do. It has elements that I like of his movies, but it's also very different in premise for his movies.
All right. I have one final question, and then I have my ruling. My question is for Johnny. So the thing with the original is, like, because they have the kid is why they don't go to the authorities. So, like, you might have brought it up and I don't remember it, but what in the movie happens that when they hear about the assassination and all of that, what stops them from going to the authorities?
So what prevents them from going to the authorities in mine is that the MI6 agent who's dying, played by Liam Neeson, explains to them that you cannot go to anyone with this information because MI6 is corrupt. That's the agency I work for, and they have people planted everywhere. So the police are working for them. everyone else that you're going to is working for them. And then they realize, like, they could go back to America and just forget about it, except that people are trying to kill them. So they realize there's no one we can really turn to. It's kind of just, let's try to stop them or we die. And the wife is a reporter working on the political event that's taking place. So she feels that she has an understanding, and the husband feels like, I'm a soldier. We can get this done. We don't have to run away. We can knock this out, and we don't have to go to anyone. So it's kind of, that's the reason behind them not like turning to anyone.
All right. Bobby, what are you thinking right now?
I'm relatively split. But honestly, I think, so Martin Campbell, like, he was on a hot streak and he made a lot of good movies. And Casino Royale is one of my favorite movies of all time, not just Bond movies. But I think Johnny's has the potential to just be a foreigner like Cable Watch, whereas Tristan's with Scorsese, well, at least I know it'll be intriguing with great character, like dialogue and work because of his cast with Leo and Margot Robbie and Matt Damon and all that. So I'm leaning towards Tristan, even though it's pretty split for me.
Yeah, I'm split as well. I was hoping Johnny didn't have a good explanation, and then I could just be like, well, the whole time I'd be watching your movie being like, why didn't they just fucking go to the authorities? But, like, I understand his explanation. It'd be easier if I've seen Casino Royale and GoldenEye, because then I could judge Martin Campbell's spy movies for myself and just be like, Can
I real quick just throw in a defense on what Bobby said? Just, I don't know if it'll sway you, just to kind of bring up why I thought he was a good director for this choice. Was I think Martin Campbell's best qualities are kind of going back to something he's comfortable with, like Casino Royale. He had already done GoldenEye. This movie is a remake, so he has a baseline to work with. I think rather than making another Cable movie like The Foreigner, having something to base it off of is a good way for him to get back on track. And I think if Martin Campbell were to direct another movie, I want it to be a remake or a franchise that's currently going, because I think that is a good way for a director to kind of get back to their roots and get back to what they're good at. So that's the reason I felt that he was a good fit, even though I understand that his last couple movies maybe were not his strongest. I think this is a good way to get him back to what he was good at.
Right.
So that's why I picked him. I never really got into that in my fight.
And Tristan, I'll let you have any final thoughts, anything that you want to say.
I've made a lot of my points already. I don't want to repeat a lot of the same thing, but I just think Scorsese's a great fit, and I want to just reemphasize the Hitchcock stakes, and I think you want to bring in someone who can guaranteed fill those stakes, and Martin Campbell might, he has a chance of making a good Casino Royale, but I think Scorsese's batting average is just way higher, and I think you're guaranteed to at least get something pretty good out of Scorsese, and I just think it's a much higher likelihood this movie's going to be good compared to Johnny's.
All right, I think I know. Bobby, you have any final things you want to say? I think I know where I'm going to go with this.
No, if you know where you're going, just go for it.
Yeah, my thing is, I think it boils down to what movie would I rather see? Would I rather see these spies, or like this couple, try to take out, these corrupt spies, or would I rather see a couple try to go and rescue their son? And at the end of the day, the movie that I would connect with more, and the movie that I feel like I would like more, is a couple trying to rescue their son. And so that is what I am going to choose, is Tristan's pick to make the score 4-2.
Okay, I'll take at least 1 point.
So about that, my original rule was that same pitch, different actors, and it was resurrect their director's career. Then I wrote my pitch for Coming to America, and I couldn't connect any rule other than directing or then resurrecting a director's career, so I changed the entire cast of this movie. So Martin Campbell I thought was a good director for resurrecting, and then I had to defend him as a just non-resurrecting a director's career. And I feel like he fit better into the first role, but I liked Coming to America, and obviously I won that one, so I'm glad I made that decision. Yeah. But it was a harder one to fight against Scorsese than if I had just had that as my resurrecting. I think that rule would have fit better than just having him out of the blue. So that's what happened there.
All right. And
Coming to America is rough for me because I forgot Taika was in Star Wars, and I literally was gonna cast him in it, and I googled and I was like, wasn't he in Star Wars? I was like, Taika Waititi cameos, and all it had was Thor, and I was like, shit, I guess he wasn't in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
in my
As
Mandalorian.
soon as
pitch,
Bobby said that, I was like, God, I could have fixed this whole
So
thing.
here's my thing. Joe and I both have to pee. I know Joe does, so I don't know if he wants to read the description or not yet. But I also have to go. So I'm gonna go right now. I can still hear you.
all right. Yeah. If you can still hear, I'll read the description. Tristan, are you fine just going first, or?
Yeah, I can go first.
All right. And this is Bobby's in charge of this one anyway, so.
Yeah, I'll take it from here.
Too Fast, Too Furious from 2003 got a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, directed by John Singleton. It is an action film and a standalone sequel to The Fast and the Furious from 2001. It is the second installment in the Fast and Furious franchise and stars Paul Walker, Tyrese Gibson, Eva Mendes, Cole Hauser, Chris Ludacris Bridges, and James Remar. Too Fast, Too Furious follows Brian O'Connor and Roman Pierce, who go undercover for the U.S. Customs Service to apprehend drug lord Carter Verone in exchange for the erasure of criminal records. And that is it. So Tristan, you are up.
All right, if you guys have been paying attention, following the rules, I have a bit of a ridiculous one left for this one, but I think it fits for Too Fast, Too Furious. And my rule here is that one must include the Joker. And for my director, I picked James Wan. He's worked in the Fast and Furious. He's also worked in the DC movies. He's also worked in genre work. I think he has this crazy mixed bag of work. I always think of James Wan as a horror director myself, but I forget all the great action movies he's made when you look him up. So my basic premise is years after their iconic race, the crew of the Fast and the Furious must reunite when the Joker announces a high-stakes racing tournament in the heart of Gotham City, offering his sidekick role to whichever villain can win. So after the race, or afraid that the race is going to be a cover for some kind of deeper villainous plot, Gotham City police recruit disgraced cop Brian O'Connor, asking him to form a team and take the Joker's gang of goons down, offering to clear their names in the process. So Brian reaches out to Dom and his crew, offering them a new life in exchange for their help. So we see the original Fast and Furious crew enter undercover as wannabe DC villains. So essentially they're acting like they're racing to win a villain spot as one of the next big Batman villains. And you don't see a lot of the villains. I think it's good for these rules to not just make it like a DC movie, but I want the Joker to be the villain, but it's the cast of Fast and Furious going up against a Joker rather than just a bunch of DC characters. And I think one of the biggest problems of the original Too Fast, Too Furious is that they don't have like any of the original crew in it. Like it's Brian O'Connor on like a solo mission. So I think if you bring back the original racing crew, you have them in this big bombastic race against a DC villain, and you can really get fun with that. You can really get big with that, and I think that's what Fast and Furious does best. Is it's racing. It's focused on the racing, but it's also really fun and really ridiculous. And I think when it gets into more action thriller type stuff, it's not as good. Like the original Too Fast, Too Furious sucked because it was barely about racing. So I think you make this about racing and you bring back the cast, bring back the characters, and you throw the Joker in as the main villain. It just feels the perfect balance of ridiculous, but also having racing at the core of it. And that's my pitch for it.
Going after my own heart, if you remember some of my old pitches.
Are there dinosaurs?
No.
That was the best pitch of the whole show, I think, the dinosaur one.
Yep, Johnny is muted. There you go.
Oh, can I say something real quick before? Yeah. We actually have a viewer that found us from TikTok, so I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
already.
Oh wow!
Oh,
We are TikTok famous.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so
I'll be
someone,
dancing right after this episode.
Gasengo006 posted on Twitch that he came from TikTok, so I'm impressed that that's already working for us. So yeah, Johnny, you can go.
awesome. Welcome.
Where the fuck is Paul, bro?
Oh, and Santi Gonzalez
question.
came from TikTok. I don't know where the fuck Paul is.
We probably made him mad about something.
He probably might not know
too
we're
much.
back.
We
Honestly,
shit on Paul every
We,
time.
we changed our schedule, so he's
Yeah,
there.
Paul doesn't have Twitter, so he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my thing. Yeah, if you've been following the rules, I have one rule left, and that is make this a 1970s movie. And Tristan and I agreed that William Friedkin is a great 70s director. He did The French Connection, which has arguably the greatest car chase in history in The French Connection, and that's really why I went with him. Well, I don't think The French Connection is like mind-blowing. Like if you watch it now, you're like, this movie is good, but like the only only thing that stood out to me when I watched it was the car chase. So I thought he was perfect for a Fast and Furious style movie. And I think I picked people that maybe fit the characters a little better than Tristan's William Friedkin movie. So my Brian O'Connor is played by Burt Reynolds, who his best movies were like Smokey and the Bandit when he's dealing with being an action star and being in car chases and stuff. But this is a very different role than anything he really did. It's not like a Dirty Harry reboot. By Roman Pierce, he's a comedian in a way. Like the best part of Tyrese in Fast and Furious is his comedy. So I wanted to pick someone who has good comedy, and that is Richard Pryor, who was huge in the 70s. He was a big movie star. People forget how big a movie star he was. With movies like Silver Streak, where while he is with Gene Wilder, that's a more of an action movie. My Carter Verone, who's the enemy, is going to be played by James Caan, who I think can play a great drug lord, and he was obviously famous for the Godfather movies during this time. And my movie is going to be set during 1977. So the film starts off with a cold open that ends in a car chase where police detective Brian O'Connor, played by Burt Reynolds, gets his man, but only after ignoring his captain's orders to fall back and doing some crazy things to jump onto the car and catching his man. He has a meeting with his captain where he is told his methods are not traditional, but he has the perfect job for him. There's a street gang running drugs in Los Angeles, and they need someone to go undercover. They feel because of Brian's ability as a driver, he is the only person that they have that is right for the job. The contact on the inside is a mechanic named Roman. Roman and Brian team up to stop Carter Verone, the biggest drug lord on the West Coast. The film is full of fun street races as well as large-scale action set pieces with a lot of practical 70s stunt work. Because my biggest problem with the Fast and Furious movies that they are now, especially the James Wan ones, are they drop every bit of racing and car chases, and everything is more action set pieces that, we're going to drop cars, with parachutes and do all these things that aren't actually races. And I think that setting this movie in the 70s would allow it to be more focused on what the 70s were really good for, action sequences, which were car racing stunts. If you look at even the old James Bond movies back in this era, if you look at The French Connection, a lot of the car chases are the most interesting things that these movies did, and the practical effects on them make them very watchable. So I thought that this was a very good fit for William Friedkin in this era. That's my pitch.
All right. Joe, did you have any questions? Because I'm kind of I get both movies. I just want to hear him fight it.
Yeah, my thing is I didn't really hear a whole lot of Tristan's. From what it sounds like Joker basically shows up in the original Too Fast, Too Furious is kind of what I gathered, but I don't really know. So, yeah,
basically,
I feel like
Joker's
it's
throwing
unfair
a car
for me to
race and they think it's a villainous plot, so they go race in it to battle the Joker, basically.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah. All right. Yeah, I say just let him fight it, unless you got a question.
Nope, go for it. Do you want to limit this one since we're getting towards the end? And
yeah, I say 5 minutes is probably all we need for a Too Fast, Too Furious debate. Yeah, it's 2:18:17 right now, so at 2:18 or 2:23:30, I'll stop it.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, my thing with Tristan's is that, like, I don't know, I don't need to see a Joker movie again without Batman being in it. Like, even the Joker movie they made, which I liked, at least had to have ties to the Waynes. Like, if Tristan's movie actually was made halfway during the race, like the Batmobile would just show up and Batman would stop the Joker. Like, and I don't really need to see that. The Joker being in car races and stuff doesn't really work. Like, I don't really care about that. The Joker is my favorite comic book character of all time, and the best aspect of his character is his relationship with Batman. That's what makes him so good. So I don't ever need to see another Joker movie that doesn't really involve Batman as the main person. So I'm not interested in Gotham police trying to take down the Joker, because if they actually succeed in that, the Joker's a bad character. And if they fail at that, your movie's pointless. So mine, I think, fits well with the era. While Tristan and I agree that William Friedkin was a good director for an action movie back in the 70s, mine changes it up enough, and it doesn't have Mine doesn't have Clint Eastwood, who was more famous for doing better versions of films at the day. Burt Reynolds is best in movies like Smokey and the Bandit, and that's very much the tone that I'm going for. And he didn't really get enough of those opportunities, I feel like. Like, Burt Reynolds became such a big star from those that he actually, if you look at his career, didn't do enough, like, movies like mine. So I would love another opportunity to see Burt Reynolds do, like, a Smokey and the Bandit style car racing action film. So and I picked a director who made the best car chase of the entire decade during that time. So I think mine just works better with my cast, with my director, with the characters that I chose. I don't think the Joker belongs anywhere near Fast and the Furious. Like, it just doesn't work. There's no comics that Tristan's is based off. There's nothing in the Joker's past or history or anything that connects him to street racing or anything like that. Like, that's not the Joker. That's not his character. That's not what he would be doing. His, as far as like, oh, join my gang, is more like the Dark Knight, where he splits the pool stick in half and says, now we have tryouts. Like, it's not, Joker would put this whole fucking race together. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't really get Tristan's movie, other than I had to force the Joker into my last pitch, and that's what it feels like, which is exactly what my Troll 2 pitch was. But
I think the Joker fits really well in this franchise. I think the franchise is best when it has the most fun, and I think the problem with the original Too Fast, Too Furious is that it wasn't really a racing movie. It was just kind of like a thriller with Brian O'Connor in it, and I think mine gets back to the core of the racing, but it also has the Joker, which I think makes it a lot of fun to watch. I think seeing these characters that we know from Fast and Furious, who are basically superheroes themselves, like Dom and Brian O'Connor are essentially superheroes that race, and you complain that there's no Batman in this, but there's still great characters fighting the Joker, and it's not the police taking on the Joker, it's Dom and Brian O'Connor and the whole Fast and Furious crew. Like that, those are basically superheroes in cars, and I think that makes this really fun. I think my movie just sounds like a lot of fun, and your movie sounds like William Friedkin had a good car chase, so I'm going to make him direct it. And my director worked on Fast 7, which was the best Fast and Furious movie, and he hasn't done one since. That was the only one he directed. So having him come back and on this Too Fast, Too Furious remake and getting down to the core of the racing that makes Fast and Furious interesting, but still having the fun and the ridiculousness that he brought in with Fast 7. And I think James Wan is just a great fit. He's worked in DC. He's worked in Fast and Furious. He's like a top quality director. Everything he directs is pretty much great to watch.
Yeah, like Aquaman.
I loved Aquaman. I mean, I thought Aquaman was great, and I think that he can bring that fun of Aquaman to this and make it great too. I think Too Fast, Too Furious sucks, but James Wan directing Too Fast, Too Furious with the Joker in it sounds awesome, and I would love to watch this compared to anything else in the Fast and Furious franchise. This just sounds like a lot of fun.
No, here's my thing. I mean, easily, like, the best Fast and Furious movie, and maybe the only watchable one, is Fast 5, and that was directed by Justin Lin. And he kind of understood what the franchise was about. He made everything about family, and he also had the insanely murderous bank heist scene when they have the giant safe that just murders half of the country on their car. But that scene is amazing, and Justin Lin would have been a better choice for your movie. James Wan is not a strong director in your franchise. Like, Furious 7 is no one's favorite movie of the franchise. Fast 5 or the first few are people's favorite, because the first 3 actually focus on racing, and then they were like, you know what, people don't love this franchise, we're going to go away from it. And then, Justin Lin made a watchable movie, and then James Wan came in and just made very borderline, like, okay action movies that were nothing special. And then he made Aquaman, which was terrible. James Wan is not a good director. Like, he makes maybe movies that people can be entertained by if they're very simple-minded, but he doesn't make very smart, good action films. And that's what Aquaman is. That's what all the Furious movies are that he's done are.
He's only done one of them.
Yeah, whatever one he did was bad. And
you mean the one that everybody loved and cried at the end because they were so attached to the characters in the movie that they cried?
Okay, so people cry
we're at our
because
time too, so
died. Like, fuck that. Like, no one cares, you know? So
Yeah.
here's my thing. Like, my main thing is William Friedkin. The only car chases that are any good, like, I think Quantum of Solace has an amazing car chase, but people don't like it because of the camera cuts. Other than that, how many car chases are interesting other than, like, I mean, like the Raid 2, but mainly because of hand-to-hand combat? There have been good car chases since the 70s. There are very, very good, entertaining car movies in the 70s that really kind of accelerated that genre in a way that nothing ever really encapsulated that. I picked a director who did the only good car chase not the only good one, but the best one ever. And then I pitched a story that actually represented that. I don't need to see people trying out to be Batman villains. Batman is the best comic book superhero because he has the best villains that are already established. I don't need to see pretend people trying to be Batman villains. Like, he already has amazing ones. So I don't know. Your movie just doesn't really make sense to me, and my movie sounds like a fun 70s action movie that is different than everything that came out at the time, yet takes the good aspects of the decade, you know? So I don't know. I mean, there are some very good police movies in the 70s and very good racing movies and car chase movies in the 70s, and mine takes aspects of both of those and makes it relevant and something that would actually hold up. And Burt Reynolds, again, is at his best in movies like Smokey and the Bandit, and I want to see a movie closer to Smokey and the Bandit than I want to see a movie like Aquaman. Like, those aren't even in the same universe as far as what actually is a good movie. Like,
Yeah.
If anyone they'd rather watch Aquaman than Smoking the Bandit, like, they should be murdered.
Okay, Tristan, do you have any final points to make? And then I think we're ready to get to it.
I think Johnny sounds like another forgettable 70s movie. You criticized mine I made mine fit perfectly in the 70s, but you guys said, oh, it doesn't hold up, so it loses. And I think Johnny's is the exact same thing. I think Johnny's doesn't hold up. I think Johnny sounds like every other car movie in the 70s. And I think by 2021, no one would even care about it. No one would ever watch it. And I think, sure, William Friedkin's a good director, but he directed mine too, and mine lost, and I did the exact same thing Johnny did.
Yours lost not because of your director, but because of Clint Eastwood. Burt Reynolds is a better fit for my movie than Clint Eastwood ever was for your fucking movie. No one's gonna watch Aquaman.
Okay. All right, we got it. Joe, what are your thoughts based on what you heard?
So I understand what Tristan's saying about the like Clint Eastwood and like William Friedkin and how we didn't go against, or we went against his. My thing against his, it just felt more like another like Dirty Harry kind of unofficial sequel that I feel like would get lost in the Dirty Harry, where Johnny's feels slightly more original, especially for its time. With a Richard Pryor, I feel like it'd be hard for a Richard Pryor, Burt Reynolds team up to be forgettable. I feel like Burt Reynolds casting was good, Richard Pryor casting was good, and I just don't know if I want to see like the Joker in the Fast and the Furious. I don't know if that's anything that interests me, so I'd go with Johnny here.
Yeah, I mean, Tristan, I don't know if any of you guys remember my pitch for the original Fast and Furious was set in the world of DC, and I did a completely different villain that was a smaller character, and did kind of the Point Break kind of thing. And then when I did Rat Race, I did a villain race set up to, for the winner. So it was kind of similar, so I liked your pitch. It plays to what I like to do with my movies. But I think the mistake is just putting Joker in the Fast and Furious universe. I think if you just did a completely DC based movie with the Joker doing something like this, it might be a little better. It maybe would have been a little bit more fun or fitting. I don't think the Joker really fits too well. And Johnny's just, again, it sounded like a good movie, good solid movie with
one no one would remember in 10 years.
Actors that would make the movie stand out a little more. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Johnny.
Right, yeah. And
get fucked, Tristan, get fucked. Yes.
And we do have.
You talk a lot, you win. That's how. I mean, I guess I just gotta talk louder next time.
No, I just gotta be good at this, and you're not.
I think with our time limits, we're gonna start getting a little bit more interruptions on the rants as we go to try to get some words in.
All right, and we do have a few live comments before we go. Paul 220 is here. He says,
Yes.
I'm here, didn't have anything to say. So Paul 220 is here. And then,
Paul, talk more.
and then our TikTok fan, I forgot their name. Gonna go back up because they were on YouTube and then they came through on TikTok. I think their name is Sante Gonzalez. Probably not saying that right. I apologize. Says Johnny's is better, but Tristan's is more enjoyable. And then they said they gotta go, but it was a great debate though. So
Awesome.
More enjoyable sounds like a win for me. I mean, I play for the fans, and the fans have been on my side almost this whole game. So
Fuck the fans. I don't play for the fans. I play to win, bitches.
If we get more people watching this and we can get some fan polls going, I mean,
I'd love for us to have some fan polls.
Yeah.
Subscribe, do all that. But before we go, Johnny is the winner. Bobby, any final thoughts before we hang it up for today?
I mean, that was a fun episode. I mean, Johnny, again, he's on his hot streak. Someone's got to take him down eventually. I was kind of hoping Tristan could do it, but I couldn't just pick him because I wanted Johnny to lose. So I think there were some pretty good pitches all around. I really loved Johnny's How to Train Your Dragon and Tristan's, to be honest. That one was probably the closest for me. It just came down to the director's choice. But yeah, I think that was a fun episode, and I'm looking forward to continuing season 2.
For me, I honestly feel the closest one for me, anyways, was The Man Who Knew Too Much. If I had let them debate for an hour, my opinion on who would win would probably flip flop 20 times. Like, it was really close, but at the end of the day, I had to go with the one that I felt like interested me more as a movie. But for me, if I were to say, I think Johnny's Coming to America was my favorite pitch of his, and Tristan's Troll 2 was my favorite pitch of his. And I'm not a big B-movie fan, but just his passion behind it. And like, if that movie existed and he were to pitch like, hey, you should watch this movie, and he pitched that, like, it would make me excited to see it, even though I'm not a big B-movie fan. So I would definitely say Troll 2 was my favorite movie of his. And Tristan, what was your favorite movie of Johnny's, and any final thoughts?
I mean, final thoughts, I should have won. And My Hard to Kill was way better than Johnny's. My Jungle Jungle is way better than Johnny's. My Coming to America is better than Johnny's. I think the only good pitch Johnny had was Man Who Knew Too Much. So I guess I'll go with that one. But I easily should have won this. It just inspires me to fight harder, and I will reach out to the fans. I know they're on my side, so I'm calling you guys. Call to action. Comment under this video and point out how bad Johnny's pitches are. People have to take him down a notch, and whether it's me or whether it's the fans, Johnny's going down this season. I promise that's happening. It's going to be one of us taking him down, and I want it to be me because it's me, and I want to win, and I want to beat Johnny more than anything. So I hope I take him down, but someone's taking him down. Johnny's the villain of my life on Movie Changeup right now. I had nightmares about Johnny's pitches, and I'm here to win, and I'm here to take this entire system down if I don't win, because clearly my pitches are better for half of these movies, and the fact that I lost on them just shows that something needs to change here, and I'm going to change it.
All right, and
I love it.
Johnny, what was your favorite pitch of Tristan's?
My thing. I respect Tristan as a competitor. He tries very hard, even though he is inferior to me, just like all of you are. But my main thing is this: no one can fucking beat me. I'm fucking so goddamn good at this shit. This is why Joe and I created this show, because I fucking just dominate everyone who comes by. But also, I put a lot of fucking work into my pitches. I put a lot of work into my casting. I put a lot of work into my director choice. I put way too much work into this podcast that does not make us any money. So maybe one day it will make us money, and that will be great, and it will be rewarding. But I put a lot of work into shit that is almost meaningless. But I love it, and I just have so much fun doing this show. I think mine, I worked the hardest on when we first found out the movies. I thought How to Train Your Dragon was like an impossible movie to reboot, and I really enjoyed my pitch for that. I thought Tristan's strongest pitch was, let's see, all his sucked, so I got to go through. I don't know, Troll 2 would maybe want to kill myself. Coming to America was garbage. Jungle to Jungle was really bad.
Jungle to Jungle, I can't believe I didn't win that. Mine was like so much better than yours.
I was on your side on that one.
I thought the Jungle to Jungle pitch for Tristan legitimately for me could be awarded worst pitch of all time on this show. And I could not believe how close that one was. But I really did enjoy his The Man Who Knew Too Much. I thought that was going to be a hard one to fight against, and especially with Scorsese. Like, I literally shit on Hugo, and that's maybe in my top 5 Scorsese movies, as well as Gangs of New York. So I had to pull from things that I did not fully believe in to fight his, and that was the only one that really I thought was like, fuck, this is an uphill battle. But yeah, I thought Tristan's a very good competitor. Even when I think his movies suck, he puts very good arguments in, and his suit definitely helps because he looks so professional. But like, putting the Shrek director in charge of a movie is a very bad.
Shrek is a great movie. You got to be kidding me.
No, Shrek
the fact that you can quote that movie, like half that movie is quotable even this many years later.
No. Okay, so I mean, I used to love Shrek, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch Shrek, and then it sucked. So it's a problem when people just, I mean, it's good for me when people pick bad, people to be in their movies and throw them at me because I can shit on them so easily. Troll 2 was maybe a hard one to fight because I was like, even though Bobby and Joe would never in their life watch a Sharknado movie, Tristan was so passionate about it that they felt they needed to pick it. It was a hard one to fight, and mine was, I got to the end, I had a Joker rule that was the dumbest rule ever on the show, so I had to throw it in. There's a reason why the Joker lost both pitches. That's not a good rule, and it's not a good fighting rule, so I didn't expect Tristan to win when he threw the Joker in, just like I expected to lose when I put the Joker in mine. So I think the main thing is especially if there's a championship match going forward, I think pitches or rules that don't require including characters or changing a movie completely, I think are important for pitches because you don't really get the freedom you want when you have to include a certain character. So that'd be my maybe one thing that I'd like to do going forward, because I feel like Tristan and I both could have had stronger pitches for the movies we picked if we weren't stuck by a rule that is maybe a weaker rule. So I'm glad you retired the Joker one. Just like everyone lost the Jack Sparrow rule, just like everyone loses the Joker rule, just like everyone except for me because I'm amazing loses the Bane rule. It's hard to include characters.
All right. So my final thoughts, I think I already said who I like pitch-wise, where I would go with that. I'd also like to say, hey, just follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Movie Changeup. I think we're going to try to put out new content, not maybe every day, but almost every day. We're streaming live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Go watch us on, or go listen to us on your favorite podcast app if you're not able to watch live, but you don't have time maybe to watch a full video. You can listen to us on your commute. Any way you digest our content helps. If you enjoyed this, if you're new to the show, share it, tell your friends about it. Anything like that will help us grow. Really appreciate it. To anyone who's watching us for the first time, we have an entire back catalog of like over 20 episodes on YouTube right now. So if you're watching on Twitch and you say, hey, this is the first ever stream, this is our first ever Twitch stream. So go check us out on YouTube, where we have a bunch of previous episodes. Go watch our backlog. And then also, finally, if you have any movies that you want to see us reboot, if you have any rule ideas, you kind of see what kind of rules we go for around here. So yeah, just tell us any rules you think we should do. I'm not entirely sure what day we'll be back next week. We never really have a consistent schedule, but we'll figure something out. Johnny, do you have any idea?
Let me look real quick at my schedule so I can tell the people what they want to hear. Next week looks like Tuesday the 16th. Is that next week?
Yeah.
That day looks like a day I could do.
Oh, yeah. That's 8 days from now. So, yeah. So, if you're watching right now, next week, Tuesday at 7 is, I think, when we'll be be on. But if not, check our social media. We'll keep you up to date. And next week will be Johnny and Tristan hosting with me versus Bobby. And it should be, the same category, the 2, 2, and 2. So
we'll keep it peaceful.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Everybody have a nice day. Do what you got to do.
Oh, yeah.